TimeEnds Radio. Man, I'm really happy you're on the show. I saw that you've done a lot of work, dude. A lot of work. It's super cool meeting someone that's as busy as really passionate people are or can be, you know. So first question is, introduce yourself, let the audience know, who you are, and why DJ Summitt?
Sure, yeah. So I'm DJ Summitt, obviously, I guess. I am an animator and motion designer. I live up in Vista, California, and I've been doing this for about 18 years. I started as an editor in Baltimore. Actually, I went to film school in North Carolina. Baltimore was where I got my start. Came out here probably 15, 16 years ago now. And slowly been building up. Did a stint up at CBS where I did the opening titles to CSI New York and the CSI Miami, a couple Big Brother seasons. And from there, came back down to San Diego. I run Summitt Filmworks. And we, it's a kind of a full service production studio. We mostly focus in film production. in animation, motion design, that kind of thing. And our clients include Coke, McDonald's, the Padres. We've also done work for the 2018 and 2019 FIFA World Cup and The Masked Singer. Just signed on to do season 6 of The Masked Singer as well. And maybe some other stuff in the works. So,
man, you are busy. You are busy. Okay, well, a lot of people are going to want to know because they're inspiring to start their own companies and just pretty much be their own boss. So, how long did it take for you to establish your company, and was it really hard in the sense of finding a foundation in San Diego?
I will say that it was not hard, because if it was, I wouldn't have been able to do it because I did everything wrong. Essentially, what I did was I had been working, like I said, at CBS. I went from there to Qualcomm. I went from Qualcomm to HP, where I was a creative director. All of these were kind of animation video positions. But the thing that kind of tied them all together was economic fallout. So, I left CBS because the shows that I was on they were canceled because of the 2008 financial crisis. Was at Qualcomm, that product line got canceled because of the financial crisis. And then at HP, I'd kind of done what I wanted to there. I'd gone there, initially as just kind of a place to land because the financial crisis, and I'd kind of done what I was going to. And I'd also, I also saw kind of the writing on the wall that a financial thing was coming, and it wasn't going to look good for like my department. Mm-hmm. And, because we were kind of building up my department. I was a creative director. We had about 30 people in China, had about 15 in Costa Rica, and we were building out these teams in Costa Rica and China and shrinking the team in the US.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was kind of the writing on the wall that I needed. And so so a studio here in town contacted me about doing working with them on the World Cup. And that was kind of the open door that I needed. So that was kind of my first freelance project, was the World Cup. It was a great way to start. And, the thing that it was cool because, I just kind of went out there and was like, without a safety net, I couldn't fail, or either I just didn't have an option to. And, I kept plugging away, and the first year was hard, but the second year, the first year was all about just making it work and like being like financially viable. The second year was all about actually being a business. And the third year is kind of which is now this is the third year, has been about kind of formalizing it, like actually becoming an LLC and getting contracts. Cause basically I was just making stuff because I want to make stuff, and people were paying me, and it was awesome.
Nice. So, okay. Then one of the questions, let's get out of the way. Did the pandemic affect you at all with your business?
It did, but it's not a question. It's not an answer I love to give because so many people were impacted really negatively.
Yeah.
It worked out for motion design and animation. It worked well for most of the people I know because it was really good time to know how to make videos without people. We know how to still reach your customers when they're at home.
Yeah.
And we don't need to do a shoot for it. And I hate that answer because I know, so many people I know here in town and outside of town in the industry were really hard hit and really impacted. And I don't want to, kind of say like, yeah, it was a good year, but I mean, from that standpoint, like business was up. And actually it was a little nerve wracking at first because most of my clients at that point were sports events, the Padres and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And conferences, a tech company that's going to a conference would call me. And I actually had the project that I was working on was for this big 50,000 person healthcare conference. We were doing the graphics for that, and that got canceled. And there was this little lull while everybody kind of retooled their business.
Yeah.
And then everything came back strong to the point where December, was rough. And I ended up taking February and March off. I just had to reset.
No, yeah. I mean, it's a hard question, and
it's a hard question because no one wants to be the person that like benefited from a disaster. And by no means, I definitely didn't benefit. Several members of my family have been sick. Luckily, everybody's been able to recover so far. There was a lot of difficulties, and I don't want to downplay anything that anybody's gone through by any means. But to answer the question honestly, I mean, from a business standpoint, things were more productive.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, especially because everything is streaming, and I it is what it is.
Yeah.
That even YouTubers like made a killing. So, all right. So, did you start off when you started off in your career? Did you start off just like jumping into it, or did you have any formal training or schooling or anything like that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a place called Lexington, North Carolina. It's halfway between Charlotte and Raleigh, I guess. And it's a small town where nobody ever went to TV. Like nobody did, I'm the first person since the founding of the city who's gone into, television or film. And to do that, I went to film school at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. But while I was there, I still didn't really know what it took. So I would go up and I would chat up, the guy that was shooting, for the local TV network, seeing, like, hey, can you give me a job? And, it was just talk to anybody that I saw carrying a camera or a microphone was like, see what I could do. And, it was just kind of this constant hustle. I'll be honest, the thing that really benefited me was I came up during like Napster era. And during that time period, I was able to get the software for free, not through legal means. And through doing that, I became the guy that in the dorm or in the program that everyone would bring their stuff to edit. And so I got more editing training than anybody else in the school. And I was cutting local commercials before by my junior year for pay.
Wow.
And so that helped. I mean, it was just, and since then I pay for all my software now. It's all good.
Put that on the record. He pays for everything.
Yes, absolutely. And, trust me, I wasn't doing anything that anybody, I wasn't going to be paying. I wasn't able to pay for it at that point. But, so it was a way for me to get an in. And so I was just editing everybody's stuff. And in film school, like that means you're editing stuff that shot poorly, stuff that shot great, stuff that is the style that you would make, stuff that's not the style. So it was actually, I was just getting a lot of different material. And so I started doing local car commercials and that kind of thing, moved up to Maryland and got my first job after film school because a hurricane had come through the town and it had knocked a tree onto the sound designer's house. And I walked into the film studio with my resume and said, do you have any openings? He's like, can you design sound? And I said, yes, I can. I don't know anything about sound still to this day. But I was able to figure it out and we got through the movie, and it was a low budget horror film that, we were able to hack through, and it worked out well. And from there, it was just kind of making sure that, you never tell yourself no. And keep plugging away, and I've been lucky.
Wow, that's incredible. So what is like? Okay, see, I've seen you've done a lot. I mean, on your IMDb, you've directed, you've done audio. What is your specialty? So we understand. Is it? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I currently my big specialty now is animation and motion design. So post production, anything from like edit, but anything I can edit, but really, it's anything from the end of editing to the beginning of color work. That's my world. I can, so I do visual effects and that kind of thing. I do motion design. I do animation. Any kind of computer graphic-y thing that's me. I've done casting. I've done some other stuff, and a lot of it was just to pay bills. So.
Sense, yeah. What about voice acting? You have a really good voice.
Oh, thank you. No, to be honest, I don't have the confidence for it. I've always kind of talked a little. So when I was a kid, like I said, I grew up in North Carolina, and I had this really, really thick accent. I'll send you offline. I'll send you a sample of it. And
okay.
It was so thick, and I realized pretty early on that wasn't gonna help me. So I worked to get rid of it. I wish now I hadn't. It'd be kind of cool to have a little bit of something in there, but yeah. I worked to get rid of it, and because of that, I speak very fast, and I kind of say a few words just a little weird. And I think being an editor, I hear the way that I say things so much that it just has killed my confidence. I would love to do voice acting, but I think it's so much of it's about confidence, and you got it or you don't.
No, honestly, I think if you gave it a shot or just did it for yourself for fun, I think you'd have fun doing it, because you have that. I mean, because I do audio, so like I hear it. I'm like, dude, I can close my eyes.
It's good to know. We'll talk after this, and you can coach me on how to turn it on.
Hell yeah. So are you working on anything currently right now that you're allowed to share?
That I'm allowed to share. What am I working on? So I'm working on some stuff. Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it. So I'm working on a piece for the Savannah College of Art and Design fashion show currently.
Oh, wow.
I'm working with that out of a studio out of LA. So they had to cancel their fashion show because of COVID. And so they came to the studio, and they're putting together kind of a short film. I don't know if it's a short. It's pretty lengthy film. It's probably short, but it's that's going to be in the place of their fashion show, and it's going to really show off the garments in different ways. So we're putting that together currently. I'm also in the early stages of putting together my own short film. I wrote a song that's called Gastonia Girl, which is about the town I was born in. I didn't grow up there, but it's the town I was born in, and it's kind of a old country song. It's like a murder ballad, which is this kind of country song from way back in the day. And so we wrote a murder ballad, and it's kind of, I'm wanting to make an animated horror film that goes with that. The problem was the song actually came out so good that this little campfire piece that I expected to be about 90 seconds is almost 4 minutes. And that's just a lot more work than I had budgeted for this year to do this. So I'm trying to figure out a way to simplify and streamline and massage it. So,
oh, that's cool. So I'm only gonna assume you're into horror.
Love horror. Yeah. So growing up, like the whole reason I'm here is because of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Like right. I love horror in general. Wes Craven, favorite director by far. It's not just the horror about his work. I also like how meta it is. It kind of plays with this world of, looking in on itself, and, people are almost aware that they're in a film. And I always thought that was really interesting. Like so even, the horror is cool, but it was also from this kind of philosophical angle of, existential stuff.
Which one's your favorite out of all of them?
So I have the worst answer for this, and it's because I'm the only person in the world that this is their favorite of the series, and it was Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh my god, that's my favorite.
Oh my
Dude,
god.
I love the fact how he brought the actors into it. And I mean, my favorite is when she calls oh my god, Robert Englund. And says, are you having anything? He asked her, is he darker? And I gotta go. And he hangs up, and you see the painting. It was fucking genius. That's my favorite. My favorite, hands down. It's second because it's fun. Would be Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason was fantastic. But yeah, it was my absolute favorite. Like I loved it. And okay, so this is fantastic. I've never met anyone that my wife, she's kind of likes it. But she's like, I don't get it. There's like Dream Warriors is so good. There's the first one's really nice.
No, this is another level, man.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
He started having nightmares.
So I actually wrote this film in horrors in horror school. I wrote this film in film school that was I never got the chance to make it. And I didn't know how to. I wouldn't have known how anyway, especially at that time. But the whole idea was that throughout the film, the characters increasingly became aware that they were in a film. And so it was this thing. It was very much like that. Only instead of like taking 8 films and then all of a sudden they were, or yeah, 8 films, and all of a sudden they were aware that they were in the film. Mine was like by the end of the film, they're influenced by the things that their character has done outside,
Wow.
so it was one of those, it would have been impossible to film, especially for a guy that, had just finished up like BCN 340, but you do what you can.
Yeah, that'd be sick to watch. I mean,
Yeah, it was a lot of, so even then, like at this point, like motion design and animation wasn't a thing I even thought about. Not consciously, but all of my stuff was like hyper stylized, and the thing, it was a lot of split screens where like a guy, my guy was walking down the street at one point and he'd look down and he'd see himself laying there. And, it was kind of this like Wes Craven meets being John Malkovich kind of thing.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was necessarily a good idea, but I think it was cool. It was interesting.
I mean, then again, I do like, I like movies that break the fourth wall and stuff like that, and the idea of them learning that they're in a film it's very cool. I think I don't know. I think it'd be great.
Did you ever see The Final Girls?
No, I have not.
Oh, you got to see The Final Girls. It's a horror film where that happens. It's and to become, basically to kind of like beat the film, they have to become aware of their role in the film, and it's pretty fantastic.
The Final Girls. I'm actually looking that up. Oh, I see it right here.
Yeah, it's really good.
So what other? Now I'm stuck on horror. What else do you like other than Wes Craven? What's your
So
2?
I mean, highlight, and this is just me like bragging for a second, was like that. So that horror film that I worked on in Baltimore, it starred Herschel Gordon Lewis, or it featured Herschel Gordon Lewis and starred Gunnar Hansen. Herschel Gordon Lewis was the guy that directed 10,000 Maniacs and Blood Feast. Blood Feast? I think he did Blood Feast. And then Gunnar Hansen was the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was the first Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And when they did the Michael Bay reboot in like 2004, I actually got to go to the airport, pick up Gunnar Hansen at the airport, and he's like, all right, well, we don't shoot until tomorrow. What do you want to do? And I didn't know I was going to be hanging out with him. And I was like, I don't know. He's like, you want to go see a movie? And so I sat in this empty theater in Baltimore, and it was just me and Leatherface watching the new version of his film. It was bizarre. It was fantastic though.
What were his thoughts when he was watching it?
He had been approached to be in it, as is my understanding. And then when he said maybe, and, kind of gave a soft yes, it sounds like things kind of fell apart. And, I think he was frustrated by that. It was, let's be honest, it wasn't a great film. It was fine,
Yeah.
It kind of fell into that mid 2000s horror world where things were kind of, they were fine.
Yeah.
They made some movies. If it wasn't, like, I personally like the Saw films, but I understand why they can be a little, divisive. But like, if it wasn't Saw, then there wasn't a whole lot of horror going on in, mid 2000s. But we've got some really good stuff. So that same, the other thing was the director of photography on that film was Mike Flanagan, who went on to do House on Haunted Hill. The Haunting of Hill House. He's done so much. I'm kind of like blanking on all the stuff now, but and it was great because it was just basically a 2-person crew, me and him. So I got to hang out with him a lot. And so he did Dr. Sleep. He did the Haunting of Bly Manor, and then Haunting of Hill House. That's what it was.
Wow.
He's got 2 haunted house films, and they both get the words get tangled.
Yeah, which one's? Hold on. Which one's the first one? The Hill House, right?
Hill House was the first one. Yeah.
Dude, you've seen it?
Yeah.
I liked the concept of the noose. That was
yeah.
Blew
And
me away.
That was
when she realizes it, I'm like, I was like this, like what the fuck.
That might be the first time it like in the 2010s that like watching a horror film, I was like,
yeah,
that happened.
Yeah.
So that was
That's awesome. What do you think of the Halloween movies?
As an oeuvre, I love the old ones. I actually didn't see the one that came out like last year, the year before, the newest one. I've not seen. I like the Rob Zombie ones though. I mean, they kind of retconned the whole thing, but there was a.
I like those a lot actually.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're a bit controversial, but I was pleased.
Did you like House of a Thousand Corpses?
I did.
Have you seen all the ones he's done? The
I
Three
didn't
from Hell?
see the third one in that. So the problem was like I liked House of a Thousand Corpses. I loved House of a Thousand Corpses. I liked Devil's Rejects quite a bit, but then I watched it a few years later, like third or fourth watching. It was, but some time had passed, and it felt a little like too edgy for me. Not that it was like offensive, but it felt like it tried hard. Whereas I felt like House of a Thousand Corpses was very authentic.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was just like, look at us be spooky, as opposed to like House of a Thousand Corpses was like True Grit.
Yeah.
And I'll see it at some point, but yeah, I also had a kid around the time that it was coming out, and that makes things, you're not going to see any movies for a a years.
Yeah, that's true. So. Well, I mean, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm sorry you ended your Halloween viewing. I mean, your horror viewing.
For now. No, not at all. I mean, it was, the first year when we went trick-or-treating, there was all the parents that were kind of backing their kid away from like the zombies and stuff. I'm like, get up here, let's see the zombie, buddy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's
hey, go towards the zombie.
Exactly.
Go. That's cool. Any other things you like other than horror when it comes to genres and films?
Any kind of genre film, really. I love sci-fi. I kind of bounce back and forth on sci-fi. I like kind of some of the old, weird stuff. And, I also kind of like that whole like Ex Machina world, like the kind of like quote unquote high end sci-fi. Mm-hmm. There was a string of those. I dig that kind of stuff. Like the comic book world, I like it. Like I love comic books, actually, the actual comic books. But just I think I got a little burnout on just so much. And trying to like, I've got this like cork board with strings where I'm trying to figure out like the order of, and it just became like a lot. And, so I think there was a little bit of that. I love Star Wars. My kid's middle name is Jedi.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. His name's Leonidas Jedi.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
That's rad.
So, but he's, so he's also got the 300 reference in there, but I like films, I mean, probably my favorite film of all time. And it changes a lot, but today we'll say is like the Korean Old Boy.
Oh, I have not seen it.
Oh, it's so fantastic. It's just this, it's gritty, it's angry, it's, kind of got that cool thing of like revenge film to it, but it's really well done. And yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, I love that. I like anything that's a little different. Most of the stuff I like also, I mean, similar to my taste in music, I like stuff that's kind of angry a little bit. I like edgier kind of more stuff. But I'm not gonna lie and say I don't cry at a Notebook.
It was a good film. It was
a rough one to watch, man.
Oh,
That's rough. But it's a fantastic film. But no, I mean, I like any story that's told well and really has kind of a good, good direction, good vibe to it. So
now here comes the music question. So you like angry stuff?
I do.
So you're talking about like Jewel and I'm just kidding.
Ben Folds, actually I do like Ben Folds. So I have a really wide music taste. So yeah, I mean, the last show I went to before I left North Carolina was Cradle of Filth. Man. So I do a lot of metal. I do a lot of punk. One of my kid, the first song other than Baby Shark that my kid sang was Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. And he also knows California Über Alles by the Dead Kennedys.
Nice.
But I specifically went to like a lot of like black and death metal after he was born, just because I could listen to it in the car and he couldn't understand the words. So that was nice. But yeah, I mean, I look like Woods of Ypres, Cradle of Filth, like that kind of world is like very much enjoy that. But I also like, I've also enjoyed a lot of rap. I enjoy a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a pretty wide range. The way that I always say it, and I've been saying the same thing since I was about 15, is like I like everything but country.
Wow.
And that's not even fair. I mean, like Johnny Cash rocks. Like Johnny Cash is awesome.
Well, it's not. I think maybe because I'm similar in ways. Like I don't like pop country, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like Hank Williams Sr., Jr., like that old stuff. But then I was also raised on I Love Lucy, so I'm kind of,
For sure. Yeah, I know. I mean, the funny thing was like when I told everyone I wrote a song and it was a country song, everybody was kind of shocked. But it's that same kind of like old, it sounds like something from like the old 50s, 1950s kind of thing. It's got that, the guy that's sang it, I partnered with a fantastic musician, and the only thing he was lacking to be like true grit from Nashville was the twang. But he did a fantastic job. And that kind of stuff is great. You listen to some of that old kind of Appalachian stuff that, that's awesome. And also, I think it reminds me of like the stuff I would hear my grandparents listening to, which has kind of got a little added, sentimentality to it. But yeah, you turn on some like Kenny Chesney and
I actually don't know who that is. Kenny
Chesney. I mean, I don't even know that he's actually that bad, but it's just, that's one of those names that, represents, it's like how my mom was upset that I would listen to Marilyn Manson as a kid. Like, she actually didn't know what he sounded like, but it was just the name that represented that genre.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So
crazy. Do you play any instruments?
I'm working on it. So when I was a kid, I played saxophone, in like school band, and also in like I tried to put together a ska band, and then I was the singer in a like what essentially I guess was a Rammstein cover band.
Damn.
Yeah. We tried. I mean, I'm not going to say we were successful, but we tried. And then, recently, my parents got my kid a little like toy ukulele, and I was playing with it one night, and I was like, this is the most relaxing thing I've done in years. So I bought a ukulele. Next week, I bought a full-on like, Squire Strat. So I've been picking up, like, I don't play guitar beyond what I learned from like the crappy punk band that I was in, but I'm working on it. And then I got a harmonica around here somewhere, and I've been working on playing that. So, I think that I've realized recently that like instruments, because I'm not going to say I'm not, but, I'm probably not going to start a band anytime soon. It's such a nice way for me just to kind of decompress and relax, because I'm not looking at pixels. I'm not looking at, I'm not trying to, it's complete, and I'm having to multitask in a totally different way than my brain normally does.
Yeah.
And, I sat there the other night, just kind of playing out the opening of like Californication. And I was like, I feel so at peace. And this is so nice.
On guitar or ukulele?
Guitar.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
Yeah. No.
That'd be sick on the ukulele.
No, I got a distortion pedal in the, I picked up my distortion pedal when I was deciding to play everything crunchy, relive the 90s. So
cool. What pedal? I have to ask.
Oh, I don't know. It was the highest rated one on Amazon. So, it's one of those where there's a lot of like my guitar right now is I'm just going to figure it out. Like I'm not going to put a whole lot of thought into it. I'll look it up while we talk, and I'll tell you. But it was a highly rated one.
Well, here's another question. I mean, you mentioned you were in a punk band back in the day. Like, what influences your creativity? Would it be film, or would it be music? I mean, that the influences when you do like animation, all that stuff.
It's I think it's everything. It's just probably might be an unsatisfying answer, but like it's almost self-motivated, and self-inspired. Not saying like because I do such great stuff, but it's because like everything you take in just kind of becomes this like burning core inside you that just has to get out. So like, when I put together, a piece, like I might be thinking of, the way that, and this is one of my favorite references. It's one of the reasons I got into motion design. But the way that Megatron became this kind of wireframe character in the 1986 Transformers film. It's they brought all these like fantastic artists over from like Japan and they drew, they made it it's incredible. So in one piece that might be, for a cloud computing website or whatever, like I might be referencing that look, but also like something from like the Dropkick Murphys, and also maybe this painting I saw like at the, in a gallery in Winston-Salem because of the way the light's doing, and the other day, like, I was referencing, a saying that my grandfather said, like, it's, I try to experience as many things as I can. And that's, when you get to know me, like, I've been to 35 countries. I've tried to get out, and I try to always be doing something, because like I love my house, but I'm not you're not getting anything when you're when you're doing that. And so I just like to take stuff in and just be a sponge. And so it's everything. And it's typically like, I almost have the stuff that I love that I don't get a whole lot from,
Yeah.
And sometimes that's because it's reductive. I mean, like one of my favorite songs is Zero by the Smashing Pumpkins. I just love that open.
Yeah.
And, it's fantastic, but I'm not able to reference that from too much, just because like by the nature of them. And this is one reason I love the band, but they're, they're very reductive. They've taken so much inspiration from this and this and this and this that they've almost boiled it down into like this perfect syrup.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Make like a cooking metaphor. So, like to then take that even further, you're like, you just got to mix it in, make your own melange. I don't know enough about cooking to continue this metaphor. So.
Well, first of all, that is actually a really, I really like that answer, because you're saying that you find inspiration in anything that catches your eye, or even a saying or something. That's actually cool, because I have some students that they hit writer's block or something, and I say, just stop what you're doing and go do something else. Maybe you'll get inspired by that. And I think that's really cool, because you can find inspiration anywhere.
Yeah. One of the ways that I always try to live my life, and this is weird, I didn't expect we'd get here, but one of the ways I always try to approach things is, like if it's not working for you at that moment, like just put on something else.
Yep.
And like you just put like, okay, maybe I've got writer's block, or maybe I'm sitting here staring at a page and I can't get anything. Then just pretend to be someone else for a minute. What would they do? It doesn't mean that you're going to use what you get, but you're going to get something. Like if I sit down and I'm like, all right, I'm trying to write, for instance, and I can't think of what to write. Well, if I was Stephen King, what would I write? And so I'll sit here and bang out a paragraph of like bad Stephen King, and then but it'll get me something. It'll just get me doing things, and I don't write, so I mean that wouldn't necessarily be the case, but I don't know that motion designers are quite as well known as Stephen King is. So
we should change that. We should change that.
I try, man. I try, but they just don't seem to flock to my door.
I guess you have to start putting an animation of yourself or a CG of yourself somewhere, like a cameo. Who's that guy? They keep asking the question. It's like, oh shit, that's the designer.
It's that guy that did the scoreboard to the World Cup 5 years ago.
So in all the stuff you've done, this is a hard question to answer, but for some, what's the worst experience you've ever had that you're willing to share?
Oh yeah. So worst experience on any project that I guess maybe I won't say who it is or too much about it. But one of my old bosses is on the most wanted list. And he was a terrible dude. He's the worst person I ever met. He's the only person that I would say that I've ever worked with that was not at least awesome. I've been lucky and worked with a lot of awesome people. And he's on there. He defrauded the Dodgers out of, he tried to negotiate the sale of a baseball, and then ended up, the Dodgers didn't have their money anymore, but they also didn't have the baseball. And the people that had the baseball, or the contracts, it was Jackie Robinson's contracts from when he was the first African-American baseball player in the major leagues. So the Dodgers didn't have money, didn't have contracts. The guy that had contracts didn't have money, didn't have contracts. And he went to Russia, and he's in Russia avoiding extradition now. But that guy in general was terrible. But, for an answer that I can give a little bit more on, that's not, going to get me sniped. I think
take him out. Take him out.
I think it's always a matter of who. It's when it's when you take on too much. It's when you put too much on yourself, because then you're not able to really do your best work when you're not able to do that kind of stuff. And that's happened before, where you space things out really well, but then one thing gets pushed and pushed and pushed, and all of a sudden you've got just a crunch week going on. And that's pretty rough, to get a little true grit about it. Right after my son was born, I was working on the World Cup, and that was a tough project. I mean, that was a reach for me at the time. That was tip top of my skill set. And, you combine something that's at the tip top of your skill set with, becoming a dad. And, the way I am, like, I'm not going to be some sort of like step back and, I want to be active and, I'm going to be their dad. And it was a lot. And I, like mentally for like mental health, I had to like step back, and I really started focusing on like mental health more at that point. Just because it was kind of, burning candle, like not just at both ends, but in the middle and on the sides. And, I remember thinking at one point that I was just putting in so much effort to like not make anybody happy. And so, finished up the project, wrapped things up, and kind of retooled the way that I approach things. And, that was probably the hardest. I mean, it was a good experience, good work, worked with some fantastic people. My son, he's awesome, but just for me to navigate that at that time, it was just a lot.
Yeah, and you said something that I think is important is definitely checking your mental health. I mean, you get so caught up with projects, and sometimes you think you have the time for another project. Yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it. And then all of a sudden you have like 7 projects due at Friday. I think it is important to do that,
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. I think it is important to do that to check.
No,
yourself.
it is. I remember thinking, before this before I started my business and all this stuff. I remember thinking like, how do people not have enough time? I have so much time to do all this stuff. And at some point, like that thing just flipped, and it was like, no, you don't anymore. You don't have any extra time.
You have to conjure it up.
And it took a little while for that to kick in. Like, oh, I gotta change things. And it was fantastic once I did. But yeah, that was a rough patch.
Yeah. Wow. Any tips for anybody that's in the process of getting more experience out there? Any tips you'd like to give them?
Yeah, I'll drop a couple of hot takes, which are only hot because of the way that the industry is right now. Like I've always been a proponent of working for free, and I'm not saying like work for free for like CBS or NBC or those guys, but like your friends or someone who like there are a lot of people out there who just don't have the funds to pay you. It's not that they don't it's not that they don't like respect your work. It's not that they don't wish they could pay you. And I still work for free or for peanuts on projects if it's a project that I really care about and want to do, or if it's going to help someone that I care about, or someone that if it's a project that I really think is good. I'm not precious about that kind of thing, and I never have been. I have been. I have this, for example, this year I submitted some stuff for Emmy nomination, and we'll find out soon. That was a free project I did, and wow. There's a chance that it might win an Emmy. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Then it was a documentary. It was a film. It was a political documentary, and nobody had money to pay for it. And the same goes. Like I've helped numerous people in town, and it's because either they're my friend, it was a project that I wanted to be associated with, or it was going to look good. There's the people that go on there and they clearly, they've got like, they've hired, Robert Downey Jr. and they're like, and you're going to get paid in experience. Don't work for them for free. Don't do that. But, so I'm all about that. I'm all about like, just be nice, but only be nice. Well, only be like nice to a point. I think it's really easy to get taken advantage of in this industry. And so many people are like, always, got to be nice to everybody. Yeah, but like, I've kind of been a jerk to some people too, and it's worked out better in my favor. And, there's some people that I'm fine, I don't want to be nice to the people that you want to work with. Be nice to, be polite and kind to everyone. Never be rude or, mean. But, if someone's disrespecting you, then you don't want to work with them, and don't. Because there's a lot of people that you don't want to work with in this industry. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if you're doing stuff for other people like friends, family, or a friend of a friend, if anything, it does. Even though if you have the experience, it kind of keeps you busy and working and stuff. But like you said, like if the productions, there's a big name in there and they want you to do it for experience. I mean, that's great advice. You definitely don't do it.
It's a matter of like know who's respecting your time and who's not. You know?
Well, here's another question. If you're starting off, let's say you've done a dozen short films and I don't know, a cartoon, and you have the opportunity to work on, let's say, for shits and giggles, let's say Aquaman 2. You know, should you do it for free for the experience and for, you know, connections?
Yeah, I mean, I think my answer is yes, but know what you're getting into. You know that it might not do anything for you, but know that, you know, if you have the opportunity to, yes. If it's going to be difficult, you know, I almost moved to, when I was in film school, I was soft hired on to work on The Punisher, the one with Johnny Tra, like John Travolta. And so I was soft hired to work on that. It was in Tampa. And it was like starting later that month. And the only reason I didn't go is because I just couldn't figure out how to pay for housing, how to find a place in Tampa. Like, none, you know, I didn't know anything about Tampa. There was just so much to do in such a short amount of time that I just couldn't put it together in time to take it. But I would have essentially been working for free there. And, you know, in that case, I had the ability to do. But, you know, I don't know if it would have been good because my expectation going in would have been that I would then get more work.
Right.
And maybe I would have, you know, because, you know, seeing, you know, that you worked on Aquaman 2 is not bad, but, you know, but at the same time, how many people also worked on Aquaman 2? And while you were working on Aquaman 2, how many people worked on, you know, all the other films? So, you know, it's not a bad thing. You know, anytime, I guess my approach is like, anytime you do anything for anyone, you have to do it. The only thing that you can expect back is what you've agreed upon. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to work on Aquaman 2 and you're not going to get paid, you're agreeing that you're not getting anything except going to meet some people and you're going to, you know, work on a film. That's it. Right. You know, and anything that happens beyond that is cool, but you can't be upset if that's all that happens, you know? And so I guess that, you know, that's the approach is like, if you're okay with that, cool.
Do you think that if someone works on a you know, a feature film with you know, somewhat big names, do you think that in a way, if they don't get anything out of it in the sense of like networking or another gig, do you think that they failed in networking, or just like, what's your opinion on that?
Oh, not at all. I mean, you know, for one, there's literally no way to know that you didn't get a job from it until, you know, your last day on Earth. I mean, I've had people, you know, I literally last month had someone call me that I worked with 12 years ago.
Wow.
Out of the blue. And I'm like, you know, we had stayed Facebook friends, but not, I mean, I didn't know we were Facebook friends until I looked it back up, you know. You're like, whoa, this is a blast from the past. And we, you know, we've talked about that, but, you know, so it's one of those things where, like, you know, like being nice to people, you know, that helps. But no, I mean, because you went down to work on that film to meet people, and you did meet people, you know, that doesn't mean that those people, you know, the people you meet might not have those connections. They might not be able to flex that. That's one of the things I always look back on was you know, whenever I would meet people in film school, I always had this expectation, not expectation, that's not the right word, but I always had this kind of hope that they could get me a job. Mm-hmm. I never met anyone that had that ability. I never met anyone on the hiring decisions. You don't typically meet those people. That's office back, you know, that's handled by a completely different group. You know, if you're meeting grips and gaffers, yeah, they might be able to, but at the same time, they're busy working and they're doing their thing, you know. So I don't think it's any kind of failure at all. You know, you got experience out of it. You've got a credit that is going to set you apart from, you know, 80% of the people working in this industry. And that's going to go far, you know, just being able to put like Aquaman 2 on your credit list, that stands out, you know. There's people who've made careers based off of the one thing that they got. I mean, look at, you know, Rocky. You know, like, you know, Rocky is the starting place for like how many different people, and, you know, then you look back at, there's just so much there. But with that said, you know, that doesn't mean don't try. I mean, obviously, you know, go out there, put your best foot forward and do what you can. But I don't like the word networking. I like the idea of like relationship building.
Yeah.
I've gone to network events before, and there's always kind of this like desperation of like, who can help me here? And, you know, I'd rather just meet people, and like, not that we, you know, not that you have to be like super tight friends, but you're just like, oh yeah, that's this person, you know, and you just kind of check in and see. And if you can help each other, cool. And if not, that's fine too. But, you know, I try to help connect people, and, you know, help people get connected to different positions. I've helped people find a few different things here in town, and in, you know, other things. And it's just a matter of like, you know, using my network to connect others. So hopefully it comes back around, you know?
Yeah, that's great. I actually like that a lot, because I have a couple, you know, I teach part-time. I have some students that feel like that, you know, because they have a hard time, you know, just meeting people in gatherings and stuff. So if they go on a set, like a feature, for example, and they don't get a gig out of that for a year or two, it's not necessarily means they fail. It's just one thing a lot of people don't understand is, like, you know, you're watching a film that they shot like 2 years ago or a year ago, you know. Yeah. It takes time, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like if you met me, you know, 5 years ago, like I couldn't help anybody. I'm just now getting to the point where I can start connecting people and, you know, kind of making those connections for people. But, you know, I think that if you were looking at it as a binary, like I met people, did they help me? Then I think that you failed, not at necessarily the networking things, but just get kind of like, you know, that's not a way to live, you know?
Yeah, because then you lose that what's the right word? Like the human side.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you're, you know, people are more than Craigslist, and you know, you got to just meet people, hang out, and you know, that's how it's gonna work. You know, people can kind of read if you're wanting, you know, if you're meeting them just to get something.
Yeah. It's true, you know, and even if you're like, let's say like you guys become friends or whatever, and you can kind of sense when someone's pretty much trying to get something out of you even afterwards, like you guys are bullshitting, you know, for a while, you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
And,
you know, it's fun. I mean, there's some of that's like, yeah, I mean, you know, I'll help out my friends if they need it, but you know, there's got to be that underpinning of just a connection and of a relationship to some degree, or else, you know, when someone asks me if I know anybody that they can hire, then I'm just giving them a dispassionate list of names of people I've met. And like, you know, I'm not going to stick my neck out for some dude that I met, you know, once. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I like with my approach. If for example, I'll just tell you the story real quick. There's this musician that we're gonna do his album, and you know, he's coming out here. He's flying out here to record it and film the documentary of the making of. You know, he approached me, and I told him, I said, yeah, I'm down to produce it, and he wants to do a documentary, so I'm helping him get, you know, everything. But the thing with the relationship that I have with this musician is that he ended up donating one of his songs to a film I was working on. Just, you know, because I heard his song. I was like, dude, this is an amazing song. Can I use it for a film that I'm doing with these students? And he's like, fuck yeah. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. so when he approached me and told me that, I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do this, you know, and it's kind of, you know, like I like giving the help, like, you know what I mean? When someone says like, oh, I'm working on this, like, hey, I know somebody, you know, I like actually majority of the stuff I do. So
yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's quick little anecdote, just as the nature of also being open and how to, you know, judge these things. So when I was at CBS, I was working on the opening titles for Survivor, and my boss comes in, he's like, hey, there's this country music artist that we want you to, we want you to put this piece together it'll be going out to like mobile phones. We just signed her to CBS Records. Can you do it? And so she came in, they shot some stuff, you know, and, you know, we put together this piece. I met her. She seemed nice enough. But I was bothered that I was getting pulled away from this thing. So the whole time I'm kind of like, hey, nice to meet you. You know, let me get back to my stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the story of how I met Taylor Swift.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So wow. it was, but the whole time, you know, instead of like being open and like, hey, how's it going? You know, like, how can I help you? Maybe we can do, you know, and just kind of, you know, that kind of thing. It was more, you know, I was closed off and doing my thing, and who knows, maybe I would have directed, you know, Taylor Swift video.
Wow.
It's all because I don't like country music, really.
You're like, oh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Can I just do this?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So here's the other question. What's the best experience you've ever had, or like the top experience you've ever had that you like?
I'll say that it's probably the last 2-3 years, and in that, it's because I'm doing something different every day. The Masked Singer was a fantastic project that, like, we were, it was fast turnarounds. All the backgrounds that we were doing for the Masked Singer were done in about a day to 2 days. And then you get a new project, you'd get another one, and then another day to 2 days, you'd get another one. But then at the end of that project, I bump over and I'm on to a thing for like a local biotech company that's a completely different direction. So I get to be like serious and kind of chill and calm down, cool off after that. And then, shortly after that, I'm on to something for like a guy's short film, and I'm replacing screens and stuff. And, and it's just kind of awesome to never do the same thing. I mean, I've never really had other than like in high school, I've never had a job like outside of this industry, but even like in the industry, it's, when I was at, different companies and stuff, it was, here we're making this thing today, and pretty much every day became one blur. But,
yeah.
I might be like in a video game engine, like running down hallways today. And then tomorrow I'm, doing like a cloud computing course, learning about like how to use Google, Cloud Academy or whatever. I don't know if that exists, but I mean, and then the next day I might be, doing something to help like a children's hospital, and it's just cool. Like it's good because I always like to change. Just the constant change helps my brain. So
yeah, because then you get what's the word? It becomes monotonous, and you're just like, I gotta do this again.
Well, not only that, but it's like, people always talk about like, how do you stay creative? And it's like, because none of my stuff is the same. If it was, like, it's hard when you're doing like, the same video every day for 7 years or 8 years or whatever. But when it's when it's something completely different, you can almost approach, in some ways you can almost approach it the same way. Like I could start off this biotech video with saying like, okay, if I were going to do the first shot from the Masked Singer again, only I'm doing it for a biotech company, what's it look like? No one would ever know that. They'd never be like, oh, this looks like something from the Masked Singer. It just but it just starts your brain working, and it's just kind of a fun way to throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks.
Watch it slowly crawl down.
Yeah.
So when you're working on the projects, do they have like deadlines, or like, for example, bad question. Obviously they have deadlines, but do they say like, hey, you got 2 weeks, and do you typically finish it within those 2 weeks, or if you can finish earlier, you'll finish earlier? Like how do you operate when you do work on projects?
Typically the way that we bid the way that I bid things is typically I try to, like, if you've got 2 weeks and you've got the budget, then let's go full on for that amount of time, and you've got me until that project is awesome. So I kind of like, if I'm gonna make another food metaphor, because why not? I don't know anything about cooking, but like in Top Chef, people have gone home on Top Chef because like they finished early and sat there on their bench, and that's kind of my approach. Is like, if I'm finishing your project early, it's either because you're out of budget, or because because it's the best video that anyone's ever seen about anything ever, and if it's not, then I'm just stopping your project before it's really, good, and I don't, that's just my personal approach. Like when I bid something, I'm bidding it, but you're getting me end to end. I'm not a stickler for time on these things.
Yeah.
But so it's like, I'm going to make you're basically, I bid it out based on days and all of that stuff. It's not going to become a financial podcast all of a sudden, but we bid it out like that. But then what you're ultimately getting is you're just getting me to make the best video that I can for you in that amount of time. And if so long as it's, obviously if you pay me for, if we bid it out for 5 days and there's 3 weeks, obviously I'm not going to work on it for 3 weeks. But, if it's close, it's full on until we can, until you're happy with it and you're like, there's nothing else I can see.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done a project where like you put a bid on and you say, it'll take me about let's just throw a number, 2 days, and then you realize later it's a lot more work than
all the time. Yeah. So visual effects is actually a lot like that. Like I know how to bid visual effects. I do a reasonably good job, but there's every couple of years there's a project that I am just wrong on. One of those was the movie Tone Deaf by Ricky Bates Jr.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horror film that was starring, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but the bad Terminator from Terminator 2. He was in it.
Robert Patrick.
Yes, Robert Patrick. Yes. So
best film of all the series, anyways.
Yeah, and he was. So I was doing a bunch of visual effects in that, and they sent me over some. I knew the budget was low, and this was one of those times that like that didn't bother me. I wanted to work on it because horror film, Robert Patrick. It was just all the things I wanted to be part of, and we ended up playing at South by Southwest. Worked out great. It's got some great looking stuff. But with that said, I threw out a bid, and it was, they told me what they had. We kind of met somewhere on the low end of it. And then I saw, and then they'd given me a couple shots to kind of test. And I was like, oh, well, these are easy. And then I got the other shots. And those were different. It was a lot of screen replacements, because the idea behind it was like, this is like a millennial horror film. So there was a lot of like phones and stuff like that. And they had shot in ultra wide, but it was compressed down so it fit within it, so we had to stretch it in post.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing screen replaces on that was a mess. And the screen, it was a lot of different phones, so I'm having to look up resolutions and make things match. And then they also did some effect shots where they threw like some fisheye lenses on it, so you're getting lens distortion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a mess. It was a great project. And they were super cool about it, but it was, I was like, oh, I should have this finished in like 2 weeks, no problem. And it was like 3 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a long time. And some of that was also because we delivered to Technicolor and we had to figure out some, like I learned a lot on it. So that alone was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But, whoo, buddy. Another one was, this one was like it's always the projects that you're not actually getting paid a whole lot on that can end up doing this. So I had done some work on Batman the animated series, kind of some behind the scenes stuff and some like DVD features and stuff like that. And the guy that ran the company said, hey, my friend shot a music video. Can you take a look at it? There's one shot. We just need to take out 2 people. Shouldn't be a big deal. And the problem was it was this really wide shot. And it was a wide angle lens, and there was a lot of parallax between the elements, and the focus was kind of drifting on the sides, so I couldn't get a clean plate of anything. And the problem was because the lens and the movement, and it was like a 2-minute long shot. It was a very long shot, and because of the movement, the people, like I couldn't get a clean plate with the right perspectives.
Right.
So I ended up having to basically like draw it in, and I'm not an illustrator by any means. And that was pretty rough as well. And that took well more than what I had budgeted for time.
Wow.
But generally it goes pretty well. It's just when, it's both times where I put the bid in without really focusing on it as much as I should.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple projects were super easy. The second one, you're like, oh yeah, it looks fine. It's not a big deal. I didn't take the time to look at like the fact that it's not in focus the whole time, that it's, that you're getting so much parallax between things that like this rubble over here is not here when, and you couldn't piece it together.
Wow. My editor is going to learn a lot off of this podcast.
Always make sure to look at your stuff for a long time before you get praises. That's my...
Well, that's actually, it comes to another question. If you accept the project and you look at it and then you see, what am I getting myself into? Do you think would it be wise to renegotiate your bid at that point, or what would you recommend?
I think the right answer is yes. It would still be wise. But I always say that I'm not a great businessman, and I do this because I love to do it. And in those cases, like, it's my word. I said what I'd do it for.
Right.
It's kind of like, it's, my dad owned it. My dad ran a trucking company, like, big tractor trailer kind of trucks. And their big costs, of things that was their fault was like when there was an accident, they had to pay their clients for, whatever was broken or destroyed. And it's kind of the same thing. It's just like, I kind of put it under wastage of like, yeah, I made a mistake, I'll eat that. And most of the time, because I'm like I said, I'm very picky about who I work with. That most of the time when that's happened, actually every time that that's happened, they've come up and said like, hey, we'll throw in a little bit extra. We know that this has gone, outside of scope, and that's, that'll work. I always do that. But on the flip side, if we agree to a project and you're going to be my client in this situation, just because it eases the pronouns, but like, and you start saying like, oh, maybe we could change this, and if you start changing that, then by all means, like, yeah, we're going to chat about scope and like, change orders, and we're definitely doing that. But if I take a look at a project and just did a bad job judging it, that's on me. I mean, and the hope is that, that wasted time of my time is going to make me better at judging in the future, because if I just say like, oh, just give me more money, then why would I ever get better at this? And it's also, to me, it's bad business for the last thing your client remembers is that like that bill that came in unexpectedly.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's like I missed my chance to get the money, so be it.
Do you feel like when the companies or the project heads or whoever approaches you and says, hey, we know this is a nightmare, we appreciate it, let's say they don't give you anything or they do give you some extra, like, do you feel like that builds the relationship stronger, or a relationship?
I think so. Like I said, the way that I always approach it is I never expect anything more than agreed with. Similar to what we're talking about when we're talking about like free work. Yeah. If we sign if we sign a thing that says I'm going to do a thing for $500 for you, I expect that I will get $500 and you will get a video. That's it. Anything else beyond that is cool. Like, but because I'm picky about who I work with, typically they toss a little extra in. If they don't, they're at least, they're verbally, like, hey, we really appreciate it. And that's, that is awesome. Like, that's fantastic. And that definitely like makes me want to work with them more because, I've definitely worked, at places in the past where you send stuff off and it's kind of like a vacuum, and that, your project's gone and money shows up and you're like, okay, did anyone ever see this? Or is it, and that's, that's always a little bummer. Just not that I'm looking for praise about it as much as just, did you get it? Did you see it? Like, just a little, like, it's kind of goes back to that human element of like, we don't have to sit there and like high five about how awesome we did, but like just a general chat of like, yeah, we got it, look great, or we got it, it played on our computers, even, just some sort of like, something. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you work with nice people, and every, I can honestly say that 90% of the people I work with, I consider friends, and the 10% that I don't are only because they're companies that are far away.
All right, that makes sense.
They're fantastic people. So
that's good. It sounds like you've had a really like great experience doing this. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah. I'd heard so many people talk about like, oh, my people never pay me. This, like, on all that stuff happens, and I'm like, I don't mind to work for free, but I'm gonna get every dollar that I'm owed.
Right.
And so it's like, how do I guarantee that happens? And, luckily there's a guy here in town who runs 100 Acre Films. His name's Eric Addison. And he was the one that kind of turned me on that like San Diego needed a motion designer, that there was kind of I'm not gonna say there's a gap in case the guy that is, doing my job that I don't know is listening and he's like, oh, he's totally but there wasn't like, there was a lack of motion designers kind of in that mid-range. And so at that point, he kind of really turned me on to that fact, and he's kind of helped me also just with business questions. I mean, he's been fantastic. And
so he's like a mentor.
I've worked with him. Huh? Yeah. I mean, he definitely has been, and I sincerely appreciate that. And that's kind of helped me figure out A, what am I doing in this whole freelance world? B, how to be a company, but also like just kind of how to treat people, how to like, how to work that world.
Yeah. Did you have a hard time in the beginning to navigate through just not learning, but just understanding everyone's roles. That's something that someone asked once. It's like, hey, how do you become, you're a producer in one gig and then all of a sudden you're a PA in another gig because you're helping someone out? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
So I think that's an absolutely valid perspective and question that probably 98% of people would say yes. Personally, I don't like titles. I mean, even job titles, and I always kind of avoided that because I realized, I was like, so wait a minute, the executive producer sounds more important, but they just have the money, and it was like, once I did start like learning some of them, it was just like, it's the guy with the camera, he's like, who's doing the work? Because like titles are a nebulous thing. Mm-hmm. And it's, when you're actually there, when you're on the ground working with people, that's when you find out who's doing the work, and there are, I know producers on, television show, like broadcast television shows that couldn't make it, that don't know anything about TV, and they're lifted up by their crews, and, that's fine, but that was the thing, was the seat of power is never is not always in the place that the title says it is.
It's true. It's true.
Like, and a great example was like at HP, I was a creative director. I could not hire anyone. So therefore I wasn't really a creative director. I was kind of an art director of sorts, but we had to stick to branding. So I wasn't really an art director. I was a senior designer, but I also managed a team from a creative, so it was like, wow. What is that, and every, and then, think about it, man. Like, I put out a call for like some designers to hit me up, looking to hire some people on some projects. And I was like, I'm looking for a junior designer. What's a junior designer? When do you like graduate to being a designer? Yeah. Or like, when do you graduate to being a senior designer, and I've just always thought that that's weird because like, I know guys who are 20 who are doing way better stuff than guys who are 35, but are you, is it a quality of work thing? Is it a years thing? I don't know. So, I don't know. I don't love titles. I didn't really focus on them that much. And it was just, when I was on set, who's doing what, and then you kind of find out that I think certain jobs bring people who are sometimes of a like mind. I mean, I think all the gaffers I've ever met could get together and have a beer and have a great time. Those dudes are awesome. But the same can't be said for everything as you kind of go up the line. So
yeah, I always found it interesting how there's all these titles, like, you have second AC, third AC. It's like, what are they really doing?
Yeah.
The second AD.
And not only that, but it's just like, it's just why all that? Like, it's, I mean, I guess because there's a credit list and you got to do all that. But like, at the end of the day, guy that, is focus puller is a great title because it tells you what they do.
Yeah.
Focus puller. Awesome. Director of photography. That works. Tells me what you're doing. He's directing the photography. Yeah. But when you get into like third AC and assistant director and, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because like I look at feature films and I see all these. I mean, I can understand when it's a huge project, you need the hands, right? Sure. But then is it necessary to have all those people? Sometimes they're just. I feel like it's like, it's like you said, we have a credit list, we need to fill it. Why? Because we're a feature. It's like, dude, save the money, cut the budget, because you don't need. Look, I've been on set where they have a sound supervisor, a sound mixer, a boom operator, sound utility, and a sound PA. You don't need all those guys for a short film.
Yeah, and if you do, like, then let's change their titles to be more descriptive as to what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like cable guy or whatever. They are in charge of the cables and lobbying and all that stuff. But
I mean, it wouldn't look as good in the credits. You'd have some really awkward names, but like, I think it'd work.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it depends on the project. If they're trying to get, like, if you look at a project and it's a huge project and you're like, we may need them, then cool. But if it's you're just filling it to fill it, then I
for
feel like
sure.
that's a waste of money because
Yeah.
a lot of times they're standing around or
Oh
sitting
yeah.
down and just waiting.
Yeah. Or, and when you're looking from outside, the problem that really comes up is like, fine, we can, put whatever you want. Your job titles are job titles. That's fine. But like when like a credit rolls
Hmm.
and, people are like, hey, I've got, I'm going to contact the producer or, this or whatever. If you're contacting those people for jobs, for connections, for that kind of stuff, like that's where it gets dicey. I was on a show called Kid Nation that they're working on making a documentary about. And they contacted me because I'm a producer on it. I just make commercials, but my title was, content producer.
Yeah.
I have no, I mean, I never saw the show. I literally just make, I cut together the pieces. So, I mean, I think that, that can be misleading for sure.
Yeah, I agree because then you look at the title and they're expecting you to know that job and you're like, yeah, no, dude, I specialize in this. I just got that credit,
Yeah.
And it could be deceiving when you're looking for jobs too,
For sure.
or gigs I should say, and just oh, we see you done this. It's like, well, kind of.
Hey, yeah.
It's kind of like the sound design story you're talking about. You're like, yeah, sure, and you figured it out. Like that's cool, and that's what you did, and you learned that. It's not like, oh, we'll give you producer credit because you're here. Make that guy in the corner producer.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is just the producer credit. That's the only one that I really have a beef with, just because I think it's so. It can just be so nebulous that it's kind of a catch-all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if everybody else that's listening, don't hate on us. It's
no, it's I mean, reality is like if you're a producer, you're working your ass off. I mean, like my producer Deanna, she works her ass off. Like I don't know my schedule until I walk in here. I'm like, oh, I have a podcast.
For sure.
It's awesome. And she she works her ass off. But then I know someone else that's a producer that they just have the title because they made a few phone calls. That's it.
Yeah, and see that's the problem. Yeah, that's probably a much more succinct way to put what. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because there's it's not to take away from producers. There's producers, like you said, work their ass off, but then there's others that it's an honorary title and it becomes a catch-all for people that I think my roommate from college who's never been on a film set, I think he's a producer on Shadow of the Vampire, because if you donated $150 you could be put in the titles as like a set producer. They came up with the title and there was like 50 of them at the end of the title. There's a Willem Dafoe movie from like 2004.
Yeah.
Pretty good, actually. There's a good quote.
Wow. I wonder if it was associate producer.
I'd have to look.
Yeah, because
I think it was something even more like generic. Like it was a title they had come up with. Like yeah, it was like associate set producer or some I don't know.
So now we're creating titles. Nice.
Yeah, it was like the early version of like a Kickstarter kind of thing. So
got it. Yeah, they're helpful.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, dude. I appreciate you doing this, man. You're super cool. Like.
No,
so much,
dude. It's fantastic. I remember looking through the stuff, and I was like, it looks like we're gonna have some stuff to talk about. So,
was that?
when I was looking through your stuff online, I remember thinking, it looks like we're gonna have some stuff to talk about. I didn't know your favorite would have been New Nightmare though, so that's fantastic.
It's funny because when it first came out, I was like, this is such a cool concept. Like the idea of like your film Nightmare coming to real life, and then I recently bought it on Amazon Digital on Amazon Prime. Because I was going through streaming shit, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's on here, and I purchased it. And my buddy was like, you really like this film? I'm like, you need to watch it and shut your face.
Dude, yeah.
I just love everything about it.
So good. Yeah.
It's so believable. Like the way he wrote the story.
It is, and then like you've sat with these characters for in most cases some like 15 years, and then you're seeing them in their lives doing their thing, so it's almost got like that reality element to it. And it's it was just fantastic. It was kind of like this great homage, not just to the characters but also to like the actors behind it, because you're seeing them like they actually shot that at Robert Englund's house, like they shot that at You know, the actress that played Nancy, Heather Langenkamp, they shot that at her house at the time. So,
Wow, I didn't know that.
mean, there is, I mean, it's almost like to just sully the name of it. It's almost like a Keeping Up with the Kardashians version of Nightmare on Elm Street, because like they're, you know, it's these people doing their thing. And let's be honest, I mean, it's just as scripted as Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So there's that.
You know what's one of the elements that I really dug is that at some moments you have no idea you're in a nightmare.
Yeah.
I really like that. Like in a hospital when she was gonna, you know, inject her and stuff, and she turns into Freddy. Like,
yeah, that was great. So it actually plays on one of the things I loved about it, and I didn't realize this at the time because I was pretty young when it came out. But you know, as I've kind of learned, you know, the rhetorical devices and everything used, is it's very like patterned after a lot of because of that, is patterned after a lot of like South American novels and like the mystic realism world.
really?
Yeah. So like if you look at like mystic realism, it's this genre of, I think mostly books. I've seen some films. Pan's Labyrinth was a good example of mystic realism, to where you're, you know, it's these very mundane things happen, you know, but then there's this magical world that they're in.
Yeah.
And Gabriel Garcia Marquez wrote 100 Years of Solitude, and in it there's parts where like, you know, it's the story of these people like living their lives, and he's like, and then they flew by on a magic carpet. And you know, there's just these little sprinkles of magic throughout, and it's kind of, you know, and that was kind of the same thing, to where, you know, we're seeing what we think is like the low point of the movie, like, all right, now we can rest.
Yeah.
But that magic world is sprinkled back in on top, and it's, so you're kind of bending the reality of the piece, because we're thinking, you know, the whole thing is, you know, that it's been framed that you're back in reality, you're not in a dream. All of a sudden, boom, somebody's getting dragged up the wall.
Yeah, I fucking love that. God, dude. I
So
love
good.
that. It's so sick.
I'm gonna watch it tonight. It's just so good.
I think I might too. Like, when was the last time I watched it? Like, maybe 3 weeks ago, I think.
Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
We'll have to do that thing where I call you later and we like get it ready at like the logo screen, and we're like 1, 2, 3, and we press play.
Did you see that, dude? Yeah, a million times.
That's great.
Oh God, dude. Hey, you know, do you know if he's working on another one?
I don't think so. No.
Damn.
I think, you know, they did that one, the reboot one, which I didn't like at all.
Oh, with Rorschach?
Yeah, that wasn't my jam at all.
You know, I love that actor in Watchmen, but I'm sorry, like,
Yeah.
I really, you can't. It's like Beetlejuice, like you can't get anybody else to play that character.
Yeah,
And it's got to be Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted that. Like that was one of those things where, like, I loved him as Rorschach. He was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And I would almost say that he did that for that character. I mean, it would be hard to have a different Rorschach, you know. I mean, it was, but yeah, he just wasn't there.
Yeah, it's the same way I felt about the guy that took over for Pinhead. I'm sorry. I lost interest. I mean, the films they are what they are, but they're still cool stories in a way.
Yeah.
But once he wasn't Pinhead, I'm like, change it.
Yeah. There was like a reboot of, you know, all the reboots that came out in the 2012s and on were pretty rough. Like, I can even, like, the Michael Bay Texas Chainsaw Massacre didn't bother me. Like, it wasn't as good as the old one, but it was fine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the Friday the 13th that came out a few years ago, then the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, and the Hellraiser, this, you know, like last year or whatever, is the Halloweens. You know, the Halloweens were a bright spot. But yeah, those three at least were pretty rough. And then I didn't see the new Saw that came out last year or 2 years. I haven't seen that yet.
A new Saw? I didn't even know that.
It was just called like Jigsaw. It was and then they're working on like a reboot of Saw, which I think is actually going to be fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder how they're going to do that. Wait. I mean, we talked about it briefly. Like, what is your opinion on Saw? Like,
I can definitely see why people might not dig it. I like it because I was the exact age that you're, you know, and demographic that you're supposed to like it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just one of those, like, there are certain things that you can see at a time in your life where, like, this is meant for you. And it was totally, you know, like, I loved it. It was, you know, as a horror, you know, nerd, I enjoyed it. It was, I was at the right age where I didn't see all the things coming and see kind of, you know, some of like how it might be a little contrived. I was still, you know, kind of young enough to where the gruesomeness of it wasn't so bothersome. Like, not that really bothers me now. Like, I'm still not bothered by that per se, but it might feel a little too edgy for me if that, if they came out and you're like, all right, guys, we got it.
Yeah.
Like, well done. You can be spooky, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I watch them. I think they do drop off over time, but like I love them. It's, but I'm never gonna sit here and like, if you were like, yeah, I think they're garbage, I'm not gonna be like, no, Saw is this hill I'm gonna die on. Like, I get it. Like,
I dug them, and I mean, did you? Okay, let's talk about the first one. Did you see that coming at the end when he was in the room? No, I don't. No, there's no way. I'm sorry. Like, people were like, "Oh, I saw that coming." No, you didn't. Get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. That's
They didn't see it coming. No, I mean, I would say it wasn't until like the first three, I didn't see anything coming in any of those. Like, those were all, and after that,
the second one was the cop. No, wait.
The second one was the one where they were in the house and there was the guy that fell in the needles.
Oh yeah, okay, oh, yeah.
The third one was the last really good one. After that, they got a little. Then there was like Saw 3D, which was just, that was absurd. But after the third one, it started to fall off. But also I think the thing was, by that point you kind of got it. You're like, all right, I see kind of how they build the story. And even when you were surprised, you were like, oh, that was the surprise this time. It wasn't, it wasn't like, what?
Yeah.
So there was that. I also loved, and I wish they'd make more of them. I don't think they can. And with the way things are in the world, but like Final Destination, man.
Yeah. What was the last one? It was called The Final Destination? No.
So there was the one with the car crash was the first one. The second one was the logging truck.
Yes.
Then there was the third one. Was that the one with the roller coaster?
I think it was, because the fourth one was the bridge, or was that the fifth one? I don't remember.
Oh man, I gotta look it up.
I know this is gonna bug me. Hey, you watched Final Destination? You're not listening.
But I remember seeing Final Destination 2 in theaters and like getting in the car afterward. I was a little freaked out. I'm like,
you looking around like,
Yeah, it was like that and The Ring. It came out like about the same year, I think.
That, which
both
one?
Of them. The Ring.
Oh, what'd you think of that?
Oh, dude. Again, it was one of those movies that came out at the perfect time. Like, I was I was living in a dorm with my, I lived same dorm as my girlfriend, now wife. And so we went to see it together, and it scared the bejesus out of her. And it was scary. People were like sleeping in, like people were having sleepovers in their room because they didn't want to sleep alone. The people were freaked out. It was, it was fantastic. I mean,
I think it was a great film. Yeah,
it was great.
Part two too. I liked part two, but it felt like they were, you know what I mean? Like they were trying to just make more money at that point.
No, for sure. Yeah, it was. I liked two. It was fine. But yeah, it was. Well, the problem was, I think, because at that point we had been watching Japanese horror films for a while. Like, we'd kind of got, it wasn't this completely new thing. I mean, The Ring came out of nowhere, and so by the time the second one comes out, you're just kind of a little bit more used to like that storytelling structure. You're also, there's just an expectation. It's kind of the same reason like M. Night Shyamalan, never really lived up to like Sixth Sense, because I mean, and I actually like his work for the most part, but his first one was just such a thing that it became so iconic that it's A, hard to live up to, but also B, people kind of see your thing. It's studied so much and people watched it and really like dove into it so much that like they see it coming the next time.
Yeah, I like it. I'm actually a huge fan, except for The Village. I didn't
mind that one. Mine that I hated was Lady in the Water.
Oh, everyone hates that. It is such a I can't explain it. There's something about there's this charm to it that I dig.
I'll check it out only because of the New Nightmare connection. I'll check it out. Maybe I've grown.
Because when I remember when I first watched it, I was like, "What the hell am I watching? Really, you're working out one side of your body?" And then I watched it again, and it clicked, and I was like, "Oh, this is just a different." You're looking at a fairy tale wearing someone else's glasses. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
It's kind of how I looked at it, and I ended up liking it. My favorite from him would have to be Unbreakable for sure. number one, because it's just like, for me, it was a new concept, and I really dug the story. And then Signs.
Yeah, Signs was fantastic. Yeah, both those are really fantastic.
Yeah.
I also dug. Did you see? Let's see. Did he do the Visit? That was one of his.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Yes, that's another one.
The Visit's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming either. Like, because I think I kind of, I didn't see it coming. I'd kind of given him the benefit of the doubt that maybe his twist endings were done. But yeah, I like that one. I like Devil. Devil was good too. The one where they're in the elevator.
Yes.
That was that was fantastic.
I liked it, but it had too much cheese for me. For his kind of films. Like, at the end, she's like, "Damn, I really wanted you." It's like, come on.
Yeah. So I've looked it up. So Final Destination 3 was the plane.
Oh,
4,
yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like, okay, Final Destination 2 was the pileup with the lumber truck. 3 was the plane. 4, I'm thinking was, oh wait, no, the plane was the first one. 3 is the roller coaster. 4 is the stadium collapse, and then 5 is the bridge.
So 5 is the bridge.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember 4.
I don't either. I don't remember
Stadium collapse. Huh.
Hold on a second.
Stadium collapse. That seems like a finish. Oh, it's the race car crash. Never mind. Race car stadium.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it said that causing part of the stadium collapse. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah,
okay.
The race cars.
Isn't it funny? The opening is what you remember. You're like, oh, it was this one and it's that one. Because, I mean, obviously it starts the film, but what'd you think of, did you ever, okay, it kind of reminded me of, in a way, it reminded me of Frighteners. Do you remember that film?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That
Michael J. Fox.
Great box art, too. Great box art with the hand and the face.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. It's one of my favorites too. When I saw the first Final Destination, I guess just the hint of death kind of like creeping around. I was like, this is kind of like the Reaper guy, or the in a way.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of kind of death is this intelligent being thing going on at that time. You kind of had you had this. Let's see, there was like the Storm of the Century was a mini series that came out right around then, maybe a little bit earlier, but it was based on a Stephen King book. Then you had a few other things where it was like there was this mindful behind death, which brings me to It Follows. Fantastic, also.
Wait, hold on. Is that the one in the car thing?
That's the one where death follows you, and there's the girl, and she's like, so it's kind of like a metaphor for STDs.
Yes. Okay, that is it. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
I appreciate that you followed me on that, because I talked for a while about like miniseries from the 1990s, and then all of a sudden somehow swooped around to It Follows.
Yeah, because I'm confusing that with Don't Fall. No,
there was
it's like similar. It's kind of like Let the Right One In and Don't Let the Right whatever. It's similar titles. What's your take on? Do you have Shudder?
So I have it, but I've not really. I literally just picked it up because this is part of my I need to do less work and do more time enjoying stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've picked it up, but I've not really dove in yet.
I've had it for a while, and I mean it's like a guilty pleasure treat for me, and I watch every once in a while now. But I binged watched Creepshow. It's not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, I love any of those anthology films. There's Trick or Treat. There's Creepshow.
I love Trick or Treat. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the old Tales from the Crypt movie.
I wish they would bring the series back, but I mean, they're going to change the guy that does the voice.
Yeah.
I love the Crypt Keeper.
So cool. Yeah, it was awesome.
Such a cool concept, and he's telling a bedtime story. That's why he always says, "Hey,
exactly.
Kiddies,"
That's the one thing that kind of bums me out is as much I loved horror, because not only that, but you also had when I was growing up, you had when I was a kid, God, I sound so old, but on USA they had Up All Night.
Yes.
With Gilbert Godfrey and I don't remember who the actress was. It's Up All Night, and they just play the worst. I mean, the best worst movies.
Yeah.
And then you had in my area, they had this dude, Count Gore Duvall, and he dressed up as a vampire, and he would announce, it was all public domain movies, kind of like cable access vampire that's tonight we drink blood and watch You know.
So it's like Fright Night, like the
Yeah.
What's his name?
Also so good.
What was
And
his
Fright.
name? I don't remember. It's gonna bug me.
But yeah, it was exactly that same thing.
Yeah.
And also, Fright Night is a movie that I would say its sequel was it got probably one of the best sequels or reboots of any.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the original.
No, the original. Yeah, I was talking about the original, but the reboot also fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't seen the reboot. I haven't seen it. I've seen that it's out, but I haven't seen it.
They did it smart. They didn't try to make it like a lot of the reboots try to keep it in the the same place, and so it's a little too close. Like they actually updated this one, so I mean it's Colin Farrell is the vampire, and then it takes place in Las Vegas, and instead of trying to find in the original they're going after this vampire hunter, but in the new one they're going to like this guy, like this Chris Angel wannabe guy that has like a magic show in Vegas. And so I could see some people thinking that's a little cheesy, but to me it totally worked because it's like, oh cool, you're not trying to like pretend like in 2014 or whatever year it was like that there's vampire hunters and like like this magical old world people, like those guys are all gone. You could pull that off in the 80s because it was still kind of close back to like the 30s and 40s, but you're not pulling that off now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, because it'll relate with all the individuals that are younger, obviously, and they're like, oh, this is what real life would be if there were vampires.
Yeah, and it totally worked.
Now here, I have the ultimate question. What's your opinion on Pumpkinhead?
I like Pumpkinhead. So basically, Pumpkinhead was one of my favorite because when you would go to like the video store, it was all about what you'd pick your weekend, and it was all about what had the best box art.
Yep.
Zing, and so yeah, Pumpkinhead was an early one.
I really dug it. I like it so much. I mean, part 2, I was a little disappointed with the costume because at that point it looked like a costume. The first one.
Yeah.
At some points, it looked like, dude, this is a real fucking demon. I like it so much. I ended up, I was in an antique shop in Vista, actually, and he had this figurine, and I was like, how much for the Pumpkinhead? He's like, oh, it's in a set. Cool. Week later, how much for the Pumpkinhead? Nah, I'm selling it together. Cool. You get the point. 6-7 months later, I was like, hey, how much for the Pumpkinhead? All right, $19. Okay. I have it like right next to my Metallica light, just perfectly sticking its arms out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, that and I have a guilty pleasure, and I get made fun of, but I like Leprechaun. I think I
love Leprechaun.
Yeah. I love the continuity errors in the sequels.
Dude, Leprechaun's fantastic. People need to get off Leprechaun hate machine, man.
I agree.
I saw Leprechaun at a drive-in, like my parents took me. It was, I was like 14 or whatever. Not even, probably, I'd have to look at the year. But yeah, I was super young, and I saw it as a double feature with A Few Good Men. And I started working on a Nicholson imitation based on that. I used to be able to do it really good before my voice changed. Because the key to a good Nicholson imitation is having a high-pitched angelic child voice.
When was the last time you did it? Would you do it for us today?
I'll try.
Yes!
I honestly, this is the first time I'm doing it in like 20 years. So okay. This is so weird.
I'll close my eyes.
Okay. So I eat breakfast 4,000 feet from 4,000 Cubans that are trained to kill me. Yeah, see, it's
dude, that's pretty good. He has that rhythm like what's his name? Christopher Walken.
Yeah. Well, the thing that worked pretty well was I was able to get it like at the time, obviously not now, but kind of get that flat, like there's the nasally kind of to it in that particular speech. But yeah, it's not happening.
That was good.
Nicholson's gonna find it and he's just gonna ban me from watching his movies. Be like, no more.
I saw your impersonation of me, and
that's way better.
Sparky.
Yeah.
Well, I unfortunately I have Billy Corgan's voice, so it's very nasally. Except his is more appealing. Mine's definitely hits that frequency where you're like,
See, but his voice is more appealing, but he says things that hit that frequency that's like, ah.
Yeah, like, what was it? It wasn't The Shining. It was, where he has OCD. What the fuck is it called? As Good as It Gets?
Cuckoo's Nest? Which one are we talking about?
No, Nick Nicholson, where he has OCD, and he dines and he's always bringing his forks. What was that movie? He has a dog.
It's As Good as He Gets. I actually don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, there's a scene where he starts yelling and he gets to this. I'm pretty sure they're like, all right, let's compress him and pull the boom out a little more. He was loud. It was very ear piercing. Okay. Try to sell crazy elsewhere.
Man, very, very well could. But see, so you brought up Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan, loves Smashing Pumpkins, one of the top bands. Love those guys.
Yeah, I'm heavily influenced by them too, which is ironic.
You what?
I'm heavily influenced by them, which is ironic that I kind of have his voice. Like, that's why when you said Zero, I was like, dude, I practice that on drums. I love it.
Oh, dude. So I'm heavily influenced kind of by them, but more by a Rolling Stone, I think it was either Rolling Stone or Spin review that I read about them. So when Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness came out, I was like, so let's see, that was like what, 94? So
no, it was
96,
7.
Is it that late?
Could be wrong. Could be 95. Studio album. I love how there's no year. 95. Release date.
Okay, 95. Yeah, so I was like 14. Yeah. So, I was like in middle school at the time, and I was having kind of the same experience that a lot of weird kids who like horror movies had in middle school, is to say I wasn't the most popular individual. And, but I was also trying really hard to be cool. So I got a subscription to like Spin magazine and Rolling Stone, and I was flipping through it, and I remember reading a review, and Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness was at that point, and probably still is, my favorite album. If it's not my favorite album, still it's in the top 3. But it's just incredible. And
top 3 of Smashing Pumpkin albums, or
just top 3 of albums in general.
Oh wow,
love,
okay.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. So the thing that stuck out to me was this line that was talking about how the Smashing Pumpkins had been kind of mocked and made fun of in this post-grunge world as being too overly sentimental. And so their approach was to embrace it and be like way more sentimental and make this like epic double album to sentimentality, and just, being hopeless romantic. And so like that really spoke to like little 14-year-old me, because I was like, maybe not the most popular. And this whole time I was trying to be like someone I wasn't. And so like I read this and I was like, wait a minute, like these dudes just took the thing that made them weird and like just embraced it and made this awesome thing. So I should just, not just be who I am, but like be more of who I am, and just kind of like go over the top about, almost to like a self-parody point of, with it. And so I still do that today. The funny thing is, I've looked for this write-up. I've looked for this review, and I cannot find it online anywhere. So this review, I guess, maybe it was just the universe speaking to me this night as a kid.
Wow.
But yeah, I can't find it anywhere.
Can you imagine? Wow.
Yeah. Because I was growing up in in a small town in North Carolina. It's not like I had, access to like private zines that were, it was in one of the top 2 or 3 magazines.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's crazy. True story. In high school, my buddy, we were in a band, and we became like really good friends, and there was always this rivalry. He's like, Jimmy Chamberlain's a better drummer than Lars Ulrich. And I knew in the back of my head, because I'm a Chamberlain fan, I'm like, no, Lars Ulrich is better than. He's like, yeah, okay, Anyways, when Melancholy came out, he wanted to get the Zero shirt, the long sleeve Zero shirt. They were sold out. You couldn't get them anywhere. And so I went to Hot Topic one random day, and they had the last one. They just put it out. And I was like, I'm going to buy it. So I bought it. And I told him, like, for his birthday, I was like, hey, I can't wait I bought you the Zero shirt. He's like, oh, my God. And then I noticed that it had where the sleeve is sewn, it started coming apart. So instead of me being a smart kid and saying, "Grandma, can you sew this for me?" I took it to a place and they ended up taking it because they knew it was worth money at the time. So I lost it. And I told him, I was like, "Hey man, I got some bad news." And he was like, "Whatever, dude, you never bought it." Fast forward 12 years, something like that. I found it and I was like, "Oh shit, an original." And I bought it and then I gave it to him and he's like, "Oh, this is awesome." I'm like, "No, dude, that's not a reissue. That's from when we were kids." He's like, "What?" Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That's
It was
awesome.
like 12, 15 years later, something like that. It was, and it was legit. I looked it up and, did the whole comparison thing. And I'm like, dude, this person has no idea what they're selling. Ask me how much.
How much?
$15. $15.
And
They had no idea. It was like the one time I walked into an antique shop and there was this Boss digital delay. It's worth about at the time $200, and it was marked for $17, I think. And I said, "Hey, I have a question. How much is this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's $17." I'm like thinking, like, should I tell her what this is, or maybe it's broken? It is an antique shop.
Yeah.
Okay, well here's $20. and it was a steal, literally, and I took it home and it worked, and yeah, but that pumpkin thing was it was crazy because when I got it, it didn't look new. Like it didn't look like like when shirts had like this feel to it and this color. It looked like it was washed a few times. And
that's good. Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. And then I looked, I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm just gonna fuck it. If it's ripped, I'm just giving it to him. So
you take it back to a place and then you're like, I just wanted to get the sleeve fixed.
Hey, I don't know. They keep stealing this shit. Like, I don't get it.
Oh, what's going on?
So you said Melancholy was your third. What's your top two?
So it's really tough. I said that it could be the topic. It's in the top three. So like, up there is Green Day's Kerplunk. Huge Green Day, huge fan of Kerplunk. It's weird because I actually have like this really heavy like musical taste, but for some reason my like top three albums, they're all kind of like light 90s post grunge things.
Yeah, you like what you like.
Yeah, it's but yeah, so that's up there. It's not okay because he turned out to be a total jerk, but like I still really like Mechanical Animals by Marilyn Manson. That would be up there.
Dude, wow. Yeah, for me, it's Mechanical Animals. Well, Marilyn Manson. It's Mechanical Animals, and then Antichrist would be number 2. And then the third one would be Hollywood. But not even all of it, just like some songs from there. That's it.
Yeah, Hollywood's, that's pretty fantastic. That's pretty much mine. My 2 and 3 are, I would, you ask me on a different day, I might say flip Hollywood and Antichrist, but they're right up there. But yeah, I even then, like, all my friends kind of jumped off the Manson bandwagon when Mechanical Animals came out. I'm like, this is amazing.
Dude, that had such I don't want to say nostalgic feeling, but it had this something that, like I'll give you an example. You like Slipknot?
Yeah.
Okay, when you listen to the first album, right? It has this tone, it has this certain emotion to it. And then you listen to fucking Iowa. Iowa is just like dark, it's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was Mechanical Animals. It has this uniqueness to it that is I don't know, they're great songs. There's probably one song I don't like on there, which is Rock is Dead is okay, but it's what was it called?
I think I know the one. I'm pulling up the track listing.
Yeah, it's right after
13.
No. I think it's like 7 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. What is 13? I'm curious.
Oh no, I like 13. Never mind. Yeah, I think mine that I wasn't a huge fan of. Okay, so I'm looking at the track listing now.
New Model. For me, it's New Model.
I get that. That one's kind of weird. I think the New Model and User Friendly might have been like the gap. Those two kind of are similar to me, and they just kind of felt
user friendly. Oh yeah, you know what? I agree. It is those two. Yeah, because the first song I actually liked it so much I learned how to play it. You know, the Dope Show is just sick. Mechanical Animal is amazing. Rock is Dead. I'm like, you know. But my favorite off this whole thing is definitely Disassociative, Last Day on Earth, and Fundamentally Loathsome. There's something about.
Yeah, mine was Last Day on Earth, Coma White, and.
Oh yeah, that's right. Coma White's amazing. Yeah.
I think Disassociative. So,
yeah. It's something about that tremolo and I like when it kicks in and you just hear the drums and he says "Dead Astronaut in Space." Like it's just
oh dude. And like I remember this is one of those things that I wish that you could still do, because do you remember like the way that the it had the sleeve, but then there was like the plastic for the CD case was blue lenticular, so that if you took yeah. And did you ever did you play the game?
I want to say when you where you had the DeviantArt. Was it that album?
So I don't remember DeviantArt necessarily, but it could have been. So the whole point was like figuring out like who Coma White was. So you'd have, and there were like these clues that were hidden online and in the album artwork. So you'd have to take like certain pages from the album art, put it under the blue lenticular, and then hold it down, and you'd see it was like Coma 13.
I never
had like a word, and
I don't know. I saw that, but I never knew it was a game.
Yeah, and then they had those CD game is it was a kind of enhanced reality. It was it's just kind of a way to like a scavenger hunt, I guess. Yeah. I don't know what the word, but yeah. And then like another one was you'd put the CD in, and they had at the time they had those CD expanded CD or whatever it was called. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And that might have like a music video or whatever. But if you right clicked on it and went to properties, you could see the files in it. And there was a file in it that was just called like Coma 12. And if you open that would give you a link to a website that then showed you a video of like, it was him in the Coma White, or in the, the thing, but he was like tied up, and there was kind of a weird, like, it was almost like the video from the film from The Ring. Like it was just this weird like art thing that then led you I don't remember the whole thing. I mean, it was a pretty elaborate piece, but yeah, everybody on like the message board would get together and like figure out what's the next piece, and it was pretty awesome.
Wow, I had no idea, because all I remember is when I put it in the computer, I would get his artwork, his paintings, and I would click. I didn't know about that. That's fucking cool.
If I remember correctly, like even you could click on one of the. All this is pieced together, so it's something like this, but you could click on a part of one of the paintings and it would play this song that I found it on Napster later. I don't remember the name of it, but it was just him kind of like with a calliope talking. It was a song, it was a track, and then that played over a picture of those things that you can put pills in. So like if you need to arrange your day, pills for the day.
Pill sorter?
Pill sorter. And it was over those, and you could click on the different pills, and it would take you to these other sites that then, and if you clicked on them in a different order, it would take you to different sites. Like for the year 2000, it was very elaborate.
Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna have to go back. I still have it. I haven't gotten rid of it.
I'll look to see if I can find out like exactly how to start it, because I don't remember like what the entry point was. Like how to get it going. But yeah, it was.
Wow, it's sick. That's sick. Damn. Wow, going down memory lane.
Fantastic album.
I was gonna ask you. Okay, since last question.
All right.
The band behind me is getting loud. What was your opinion on Clown?
On Clown.
Eli Roth's Clown.
Oh, I think that Eli Roth in general, I'm not a huge fan. It just doesn't like. There's just something that doesn't speak to me about his stuff. Like it's fine. But let me pull up like what else has he done before I say that. I want to say like
Green Inferno. What else did he do? Green Inferno and
he did Knock Knock. So okay, I liked Cabin Fever. Hostel, I wasn't a fan of. This is everything that he's been in too, so that's weird. Wait. Yeah, I mean, as I remember, I've only seen it once, and so I would definitely take another shot. But
yeah, for me, what drew me was the concept of the Clown, and I own it because I'm a sucker, and I dig it, but it's I wish he could have done a little bit better with the storytelling, not storytelling, but showing more about the transformation, But it's one of those movies that I did. It's kind of like, what's that movie that came out recently? Was it Spell? It's about voodoo.
I haven't seen that one, no. So I just looked up Clown. I had to jog my memory a little bit. So now I think the problem with it was that going in, I had only seen the trailer, and I expected something different than what it was.
Oh yeah,
and I think that was it. So I think it was I would go back and give it a shot, but it was just a different thing. I was kind of expecting something. Wait, was he in that? Did you see The Strangers, like the original?
Yeah.
Dude,
why are you doing this? Because you're home.
Yeah, like that. See, that one was one of the first. Like, that's one of the first films I remember like being sad about, but like in a good way. But it was just like, I remember like it's this. It starts off this, and this isn't going to spoil it for anyone. And even if it does, this movie's like 20 years old. So,
yeah.
but it kind of starts off with this fighting couple, and you're like, oh, they're already having a tough time, and the acting's good enough that you could kind of go with it. And then, but then the way that they're interacting with them is just is mean spirited. There was a hopelessness to it that wasn't like that's not been in a bunch. So and I thought that was fantastic. And there was another one. What was that? Oh man, I'm just gonna blank on me now.
The one that got me curious to watch was The Purge because of The Strangers.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like I was at first I was like, and then I like Ethan Hawke, but when I saw what it was about, it reminded me of The Strangers, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. You know that and The Crazies too. I like The Crazies.
I like The Crazies. I really like The Purge, but that's. I like that something so it's just because it's so bonkers. Like, actually, it's one of those where I think the first one, was an okay movie written by someone who knows how to write a movie. Putting it together was a little clunky. So then they it's like they hired all the opposite people for the second one, where it was like a poorly written. It was a poorly written like good movie. Like the writing was just kind of like, oh, it's like clunky and doesn't like.
Yeah. And what do you think about the series?
So I started the series and then I lost track of it just due to work and stuff. So I don't know. I don't have enough to really say, but yeah.
Oh, cool. They shut up. Any other series that you might want to share? Did you ever watch Stranger Things? What's your opinion on that?
I like it. I think that I'm just a couple years younger than the kids there, and so like not all those things line up for me. I just had a slightly different childhood. So
you mean like with the year it takes place? Like
yeah.
Okay,
like, I think that it's taken place, in like 84, and I was like 2. And so like my childhood was much more video games. Like I played Dungeons and Dragons, but I played it more like in high school and when it was like advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which I think they then wrapped into like 4th edition or whatever. But it was a very different experience. This is now a Dungeons and Dragons podcast where we're just going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. But no, it was so the sentimentality I think I missed out on in some of it. I mean, some of it obviously is there. But yeah, I mean, I like it. It's kind of, it feels like a Goonies, that kind of world to me, which is, which I love.
That's why I started watching it, because it gave me that feeling that Goonies gives,
Yeah. No, I really enjoy it. I think it's just, there's that punk rock part of me that like anytime everyone loves something, like I just try to not love it because,
yeah,
because I like to be difficult.
You like that? I don't like it.
I do really enjoy it though. It's fantastic. We went up and did that thing up in LA, where the drive-through thing, and that was fantastic. Love that. I was looking up. So the one I was going to bring up earlier was Creep. Was Creep, I believe.
Creep.
Did you see Creep? It's let's see. I'm trying to look at the. Yeah. It's the it's with Mark Duplass and
2014 or 24. 2014.
2014. Yeah. Oh, you should check it out. It's good.
No, the cover looks familiar. It's probably on Shudder.
Yeah, it's good. It's totally worth it.
Oh, there's a
but
Creep
yeah,
too. Nice.
As far as like shows go, like I guess my favorite show for a while has been Mr. Robot.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really good. I'm a big like tech nerd in general. Like all of my last 5 computers I've built. And like I said before, like when I got the software in film school, like I was the one that was cracking it. This was back before people would do that for you. So I know my way around like back ends of computers. And so that it kind of scratches that nice spot of my brain, like that weird, in another life I could be a hacker part of my brain.
Yeah.
But it's also just beautifully put together. So love that show. But really, to be honest, like most of the time, like I'm just watching kind of turn off shows. I love true crime. Like in general, true crime is just my jam. So like we've been watching the John Wayne Gacy thing on Peacock.
How is that?
It's really good. Yeah, he was bad, dude. I mean,
I'd say.
but no, I mean, it's really well done. Some of them I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, like there was the Ted Bundy one that came out a couple of years back that kind of was everyone talking about how great Ted Bundy was at killing me, and it's like let's kind of maybe back off of giving him too many applause. But I listened to like podcast of I don't know if you've ever heard Last Podcast on the Left.
Yes.
But yeah, I love those dudes. So
I was I do. I was recommended that, and what's that other one called? Actually, I think the host is gonna. See, there's so many names I can't even keep them in mind. I'll tell you right now. It is R&M. Let me see. Oh, come on, computer. Come on. Yeah, of course, when I want to pull it up, it's not.
Right, yeah.
Hold on. I can't even find my friend. Interesting. Let me see. Yeah, they just like they're. It's not even coming up. Seriously?
Oh, it's no problem. But yeah, so like I'm a huge fan of that, and then the like I like pretty much any kind of true crime stuff. I'm gonna watch it.
Do you like Noir?
Do I like what?
Noir, like Noir crime, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I when I was in film school, I wanted to make a bunch of film noir stuff, but anything like that's gonna be my jam. Like.
Yeah, I'm into. I love noir, and I'm into, crime stuff and detective stuff. Only because I'm a giant nerd and I love Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan.
Nice.
I have comics. I just bought the recent, the one where he's. It's called Cursed, where he's being followed by Enchantress and stuff. It's the first time you see his dick, actually.
Oh, wow.
Everyone make the big deal about it. They're like, bat penis, bat penis.
I remember when that came out, I think. That was like a couple years ago, right?
Yeah. I recently just got it because I got this like really nice edition.
Nice.
Yeah. So
cool.
Because of that, I started, just watching like crime shows, and like one of my favorite is CSI, the Vegas one. The other one would be NCIS. Law and Order, SVU. Law and Order is a little too boring, but I like watching it,
Yeah.
And Criminal Intent and stuff.
My NCIS story was it was my first week at CBS, and this was back when it was a very new show. And I went to a meeting, and this was like my first, kind of Hollywood meeting, and I'm trying to like fit in. And I sit down and I get the packet of like what I'm going to be working on that week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that's weird. There's this, I was like, I see here I'm on CSI New York and CSI Miami, and then the show called NCIS. Do we even have that? And the guy across the table said, yeah, and I'm the writer. It's like, oh, sorry.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I was like, sorry, I don't watch this show. I don't, yeah. But
it's different, because it's very, there's a lot of comedy in it. A lot of comedy. Yeah. Have you seen any of them, or?
No, it's, pretty much anything I watch. Like I watch A lot of bad TV, like just because so much of it's like just kind of turn your brain off. Like I watch a lot of reality shows because again, I watch The Bachelor like every season, just because I don't have to think. Um, you know, um, and there's a little bit of like, I remember the first time I saw an episode of The Bachelor, there was a woman who faked a panic attack so that she could spend time with this dude in a marriage derby. And I'm like, this show is insane. And then she started talking, and it's like she totally killed her first husband. And you're like, what is going on? And so I just started watching after that because it's just like the absurdity that the show exists.
So is that like your guilty pleasure?
Oh, I talk about it. I don't,
Okay.
I own it. Everything I like, I own. I mean, I don't know if I had a guilty pleasure, what would it be? I don't know. Yeah, I kind of own everything that I like.
Yeah.
I went to see, when like in the midst of like when I'm listening to nothing but like Korn and like Deftones and everything, I also went to see like Britney Spears live. I owned it.
Britney Spears?
Yeah,
dude, I like her. I like her music, and I actually, people think I'm crazy, but I respect her for going crazy and breaking her contract with Disney and all that shit.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, dude, she wanted out.
Yeah. No, it's for sure. I don't know her situation currently, but I hope it's good. But yeah, no, she's fantastic.
Last I heard, she came out. I think she came out with an album, or she was touring, something like that. After the fact, after she had the kids and stuff.
No, I think if you grow up and like it, or even as like an adult, and you still listen to like death metal, like having guilty pleasures is like, you're kind of past that because it's like, dude, people like, I was judged for the stuff that I liked, honestly. Like, why am I all of a sudden gonna pretend like, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like, especially now, it's like, who cares? It's like, this person asked me, it's like, oh, what kind of music do you like? You like metal, huh? Like, I do, but I'm a huge Tom Waits fan.
Yeah.
What? It's like, yeah, you didn't see that coming? And I like Jewel. People are like, what? I'm like, oh, well, her earlier stuff, after a while, she started sucking. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, you like what you like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, it's interesting the way that goes. I mean, because, I love it, but there's certain days that I'm just like, I need to hear somebody strum an acoustic guitar quietly, and then there's, like, I also listen to like a lot of, you might have heard of them. Like, you ever heard of Harley Poe?
Say again?
Harley Poe?
No, I don't think so.
So it's like punk folk. So the way that I found out about him was he's got a song called the Hearse Song, and it actually happens to be the song that was, I don't know if you had the book Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, yeah, of
but
course.
It had so the Hearse Song was in there. Well, he actually recorded the Hearse Song.
Oh, that's him?
Well, yeah, it's him. I mean, at least he has a version. There might be a bigger version that I'm unaware of, but
I mean, there's the versions that they they did on keyboard and like
no, this is him actually playing guitar, and he's like singing and
oh shit, I know it's him. Wow.
And he's got like a whole album, and like I somewhat try to like limit it only because I've found that like I kind of get in a bummed mood if I listen to too much of it, just because it's like so dark and kind of like solemn, and it just kind of is a little downbeat. You're like, all right, I need something to kind of bring me back up. And so, I'll listen to that for a couple days and then like switch over to like Goldfinger.
What is your favorite punk band?
Man, that's probably the Misfits, dude. I mean, they just kind of, they reside in a place that is very much like me, of kind of this horror world, this punk world. They're like good at branding. I'm not one of those people, like I actually like all versions of the Misfits, like even their stuff from like Famous Monsters, they switched over to a different singer who's pretty controversial, and I love that stuff too because it's kind of got this weird like 50s vibe. It's kind of got all of it's got and I totally dig that. Like it's almost calling to like doo-wop or something. And
I like I liked Michael Graves, and people are like, oh, you're a fucking traitor. No, I just like his voice better. I mean, Danzig, I like Danzig. I like his solo shit. Obviously, when he was the lead singer, I like it. But if they ask me, who do you like as the lead singer? Michael Graves, man.
Yeah.
Plus,
no,
I love the
dude,
makeup he did.
great.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I mean, they brought that 50s style to it, or that rockabilly style too, which was cool, I thought.
I thought so, and I thought it was very like on brand for them, because they had always, they were always about like the 50s like sci-fi thing and the 50s like horror thing, and then they've got their name, they got their name from the Marilyn Monroe film, and so like all of this was from that time period. And then like on Saturday night, like he just brought that final piece of like, there are parts of Saturday Night in specific, but there's a few others like that whole project. I like Project 1950. Which a lot of people don't. But to me, it felt like, if you were putting together like a horror prom night, like that's it,
Yeah.
And I love it. It's,
like, honestly, it's a great album. What was the name of the album before that with Dig Up Her Bones?
yeah.
What the hell is it called? The Crimson. No, it wasn't. Was it self-titled? No.
No, it was. Oh, come on. It was on. I just got a single cover here. So.
My computer is. Your computer is definitely working faster than mine. Mine's like being stupid. Oh, there we go. Now it's working.
Oh, it's American Psycho.
American Psycho. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. That was my number one album, and then. And then Famous Monsters came out with Michael Graves. With Danzig, I would have to say Collections 2, but it's
Collection 2's a classic of
yeah. It's like a really good for anybody that doesn't know Misfits and you're listening, like you want to get into like Misfits, just get Collection 2 and you're well rounded.
yeah, you really are.
Yeah,
and then check out like either American Psycho or Famous Monsters. I think that and you're either gonna like it or you're gonna absolutely hate it. I think if you're just getting into the Misfits, like you'd like it because he does. I think objectively he has a better voice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Danzig worked for the time, but I mean, if you really think about vocals, like he fucking kills it.
Yeah. And so like the only people that are saying like are bothered by it are like these lifers that were into it way back in the day, and
you gotta learn, guys. You gotta learn to like stuff that's good.
Yeah. And I mean, just think for a second. Imagine being like, strip away all the music from it and being like, no, I'm gonna stand up for Glenn Danzig.
No, sorry. I mean, I love Evil Elvis, but I mean, I'm talking about singing.
Yeah, dude's talented. I mean, he's talented, but he's a pain in the ass from everything that anyone's ever heard about him. So.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
There's another podcast that I was listening to called, and you might totally be into it. It was it's called No Dogs in Space. It's by the guys that do. It's by one of the guys that does Last Podcast on the Left, and they do music. And this last season was on punk rock. So they did like the Stooges, they did the Misfits, they did Suicide. Like they did a lot of bands that you wouldn't think of necessarily. Like they did do the Dead Kennedys, and the Clash, but like they didn't do the Sex Pistols.
Really?
Didn't. Yeah. Well, they did one thing on the Sex Pistols, but their kind of point on it was like the Sex Pistols. They're not actually that interesting of a story, and like they're almost kind of like a boy band of punk rock, in some ways, because there was some engineering behind it, so they covered so they've covered more like the guys that influenced them. They covered Joy Division, so basically I think they took it from, if I remember correctly, they took it from Stooges to Joy Division and hit some things there. I was hoping they were gonna hit the Germs because I love the Germs, but
that's interesting. I never thought about that. Yeah, in that aspect, it does seem like they are in a way the boy band, because yeah,
and I think also it's hard to with the way things played out, it's hard it's hard in 2021 to get up and talk about how much of a genius Sid Vicious may or may not be, because that whole wife killing potentially thing. But
what's your opinion on Gigi Allen?
So my opinion on Gigi Allen is is complicated. because I actually created an officially licensed G.G. Allin music video that will never see the light of day.
What?
Yeah, so I was playing around with like a lot of dirt punk style, like in the mid 2000s, and G.G. Allin did a country music version of a country music album called Carnival of Excess.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of country music, totally different from the rest of his stuff, and I kind of I liked it. You know, it was in that kind of weird gutter country kind of way. You know, it's not something I'm going to listen to like on a sunny day at the beach, but you know, it had its moments. And there was a song I wanted to use in a film. I wanted to use a little snippet of it. So I ended up, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to try. Because I was like, if I can ever afford recorded music, it would be G.G. Allin songs, because nobody's banging down the door for the Murder Junkie to, you know, license that for like a Chrysler ad. So I looked up and I found
smear
the guy,
shit everywhere.
right. So I found the guy. So I found out that this guy was working on creating a box set for that album. I was like, that's weird. So I called him out of the blue and I was like, hey, would love to license this song. And he's like, sure. Here's what I'm doing with this thing. He's like, you can use the song for free, whatever you want, if you will make a music video, because we're putting together, you know, a few different pieces. We're putting together like some music videos. It's just this box set celebrating like 30th or 40th or whatever anniversary of this album coming out. Mm. And so he gave me one of the songs, and my friend, my best friend from North Carolina, was coming out for Comic-Con, and he kind of had a G.G. Allin-esque look. I mean, big beard. Basically, he was a thin guy with a big bushy beard, like a big bushy brown beard, and he was willing to shave his head. So, you know, it kind of worked. And so we filmed it, you know, a mini DV thing, and it was mostly just him like lip syncing on the railroad tracks, like, down in Claremont area of San Diego. And so we filmed it, you know, a few things, and it was, you know, a lot of just him looking kind of like a, you know, tough guy in different parts of town, you know, leather jacket and just walking down the street. Just, you know, it wasn't a great video because we didn't have a budget. We didn't know what to do. And also there was a lot of difficulty. Apparently, like, G.G. Allin's brother is very protective of the estate.
It sucks.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I appreciate G.G. Allin as a performance artist. But like, at the same time, you know, I am a person that like lives in 2021, and like, dude, that's not okay. Like, you know, so like, yeah, it's just, it's tough. I mean, you know, I think that, is he a good musician? No, he's not. You know, I think, but I will say that, you know, I think he did have a couple moments on the Carnival of Excess album where he was, you know, where he could have been something more. But as a performance artist, like, I have to give him that respect, because you know, he knew how to do his thing. You know, he chose a path and like did it well. But you know, so at the same time, like, I'm not going to go out and like defend G.G. Allin. You know, like, that's not the hill I'm dying on.
Yeah. For me, it's hit or miss. It's kind of like Rollins' pen. It's hit or miss for me with Rollins. I never got into Rollins really.
I got into his spoken word stuff a lot, and then I met him at Comic-Con, and he was like, actually not incredibly nice. I'm
really?
Like, come on, dude. You're at Comic-Con. Yeah, like, he wasn't like super rude, but it's like, you know, he was kind of like just very flat. And, you know, I mean, he was there for Wrong Turn too. And I was like, hey, dude, love Black Flag. You know, what's going on? I, you know, loved your, you know, named off a couple of his books, you know. And he was just kind of like, yep, all right, yep. You know, just kind of rushing it on. And it was like, come on, man. Like,
that sucks.
Yeah.
I like it when when they go overboard and they're like, oh, they shake your hand. Kind of like Schwarzenegger, you know.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have his guy telling him, all right, let's go, he would still keep talking to you, you know.
For sure. Yeah, and that's, you know, like, I get that, you know, you're not always going to get that interaction, but like, you are at a, you know, you're getting paid to be there. You're at a thing, you know, you're at a booth signing, like, you know, don't go to a booth signing and be a jerk. So, but no, I mean, I like his spoken word stuff. I do like listen to some of his spoken word stuff and like read his books now. And they do have a little bit of age on them, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's, and, you know, I think it speaks to you at a certain point in your life. And, you know, at a certain point, you also kind of grow past that, and you're like, you know, the phrase I'll use for the third time, a little too edgy for me, bro. So.
You know what? As a thumbnail, I'm going to put edgy.
But yeah, I mean, you know, but I, you know, I respect what he's done. You know, I think my approach, like, he's got a very, you know, what I would consider kind of a judgy just approach to life. It's very judgmental. And like, I've tried to move away from, like, his is like acceptance through judgment. And like, I've tried to move away from that in general. Like, that just seems like a lot of negative. So I've tried to move past that kind of thing, and just, you know, because that's the thing, like the world of punk rock and the world of metal, as you know, like, you know, you said you listen to like a lot of metal, like it's such like this like brotherhood. It's so tight, you know, and it's so supportive as a community. And so like, that's kind of where I want to like spend my time, and, you know, instead of like being angry about people, but, you know, just be angry about injustice and like that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of like the well, I mean, not for all bands, but majority of the bands, you know, they're you know, super cool guys. I mean, on stage they were gonna rip your face off, but you know, they're human beings, and you're shaking their hand and they're giving you hugs and signing stuff. And my favorites when they're like, "So how was your day going? Would you like the show?" Holy shit, you're talking to me. You know, it's like, it's really cool when they do that, when they go out of their way and do that. And I've noticed with metal bands, it is like a brotherhood. Punk bands too. So it is kind of, I guess, disheartening to see someone that's especially iconic that's like that. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, that's my take. I mean, I could have, you know, who knows? His dog could have died that day. I mean, you know, there's no telling what he was going through on the flip side of it.
That's true. That's true.
But, you know, it was, it just wasn't the experience I was hoping for. But no, I love those dudes. Like, the Germs, big fan of those dudes too. I had a dog named Darby.
Nice.
So, you know, it was.
Did you ever get into Blink?
So Blink is, you know, I did like as much as anybody did in like 1995, you know, but then they kind of fell off my radar, and now like I listen to them more now probably than I did back when they were really, you know, doing stuff.
Yeah.
Just because there's kind of a nostalgic happy to it that I kind of dig. Yeah, you know, like,
I had the privilege of watching them live once, and that's when I was very, 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 very young and naive, and that's when I learned that production is everything. They were so horrible live. I mean, out of key, out of tune, off time. The only one on time was the drummer. I mean,
that's good.
People were leaving. People were walking away like, these guys suck, you know. I was really surprised, you know, the first time I saw them. Actually, one of the reasons why I saw them is because I went down to, they were playing a show and doing a signing, and me and a band, we were in together, 2001 or something like that. Was it here in San Diego? Anaheim. I don't remember. They were doing that, and we started giving out our albums to all these Blink fans. Oh, it's free album. They're like, oh my god! And we took pictures and stuff. And then I ended up getting tickets to see them at it was like not Weenie Roast. Was it Weenie Roast? It was one of those, and I'm excited. Let's watch them. And they sucked, and people were just leaving, booing them. I was like, God, it sucks, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never seen them live, which is kind of weird. But when they were like having their like heyday, I was mostly doing like the new metal thing at that time. You know, a lot of Deftones, a lot of Korn, a lot of Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
Yeah, you know. And so like that, I'd kind of gotten out of like the pop punk world for a while. Mm-hmm. You know, there was still a couple of things like, you know, some of the Rancid stuff during that time period was a little poppy. You know, but I had moved away from those dudes for a bit, and like now, you know, I'll come back and listen to them. You know, I think I first kind of caught it when I heard San Diego at a Padres game. I was like, oh yeah, that's these guys. I'd forgotten about, you know, because I listened to like Damn It, you know, until the CD melted.
Yeah,
like that whole album was, you know, my jam. But yeah, I think by the time that they had come out with think Jacket was their second album, right?
I wouldn't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it was by the time they came out with their like at least their second mainstream. You know, there might be some guy that's gonna like hit you up and be like, "This is their third album. They came out with one EP and like when they were at Poway High." That you know, so.
And my response would be like, hey, "Who cares?"
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. So I moved to like the Corn world because I was on the Corn bandwagon in a big way.
Oh yeah. Take off your pants and jacket.
Thought so.
Yeah. So there's the ones that I think matter. It's the self-titled and then Enema of the State.
Yeah, Enema of the State was good.
I don't even know any of the other ones here.
Yeah, I think that whole like for that time period was filled by a Bloodhound Gang for me. Like
yes.
The
yes.
humorous ones. Yeah, Bloodhound Gang was awesome.
Oh God, I've heard some crazy fucking stories with them. Just like they do. Fucking that. Now that is a band.
Yeah. So did you hear why they're not a band anymore?
No.
Yeah. So apparently their lead singer like came out. They were in Russia, and he came out and like did some sort of anti-Putin thing and did some stuff that they were kind of warned to not do about Russian nationalism. And from the stories I've read, they had to like get on a plane in the night, like sneak onto a plane to get out of the country. Like they were like, and the band was pissed at him because I mean, you know, not because they got kicked out of Russia, because they were like in legit danger. Like they were, yeah, they had to sneak out of the venue, like ride in the trunk of a car kind of thing. It was apparently pretty hot and heavy.
Wow. So they fired him or he quit?
I think they just kind of all figured like, yeah, we're done. You know, I'm not sure that, you know, fired, quit, disband, you know, I'm hoping they do something again one day, but then at the same time, I wonder if I'm going to be a 40-year-old man listening to the Bloodhound Gang.
You know, it's funny. I think about that. It's like I listen to certain music that I probably would be looked at like, aren't you a little too old for that? No, you know.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I still happily listen to like the Hooray for Boobies album. Yeah. I'm like, yes, I am. I own a house and like this album called Hooray for Boobies. So.
It's, you know, like I said, you like what you like. It's good. It's not, you know, I don't know. I think it's good stuff. Even like the new music today, some of it, you know, it's interesting. I got into, have you heard of The Weeknd?
Yeah.
I love that dude's voice, and
oh, dude, he's so good.
Like 9 out of 10 songs I always like, you know. Yeah, the guy is amazing. Yeah, no, but you know, going from
he's super good. He's like the new like Michael Jackson. He's so
yeah.
I like him. So as far as like new stuff goes, I mean, it's not really new anymore, but like, you know, there's a lot of like SoundCloud rappers that I actually dig. Like I kind of got into that when I don't know if you've ever heard of Lil Peep, but he actually passed away in 2017, and I remember like seeing it on Twitter, and I was like, who is Lil Peep? And you know, there's like all these people that know Lil Peep, and it was like one of the biggest SoundCloud rappers at the time or whatever. So I listened to his stuff, and it's like this very downbeat kind of rap. So like when it comes to rap, like there's a guy named Cage that I really liked, and
guy
it's
with
kind
the
of like
tattoo in his face?
Rap.
Is he the guy with the? Okay, I remember him.
Yeah, and he's got a song called like Ben's Truck that's really like kind of iconic of what he does. And I mean, I would almost say kind of like it's like what grunge might have become, like if it kind of took that, you know, continued on and became like rap, you know. So like if Aerosmith started combining them, and then like Korn and those dudes were doing like rap, you know, rap and rock, like imagine if that kept going and just completely like, you know, evolved into like rap.
I'm gonna check out his stuff. I remember seeing the article, and
and there's a few dudes that are like that, but he's just the one that came to mind. So I like those dudes. I will, without even hearing anything, I'll do anything. I'll buy anything Rammstein does. Like those guys are phenomenal. And one of these days, I'm gonna get to go to that concert in LA when they have it. I've had tickets for 2 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh.
So hopefully this September we'll see. But
that's gonna be sick.
With that said, you know, like those dudes, like I have a hard time finding a lot of new music, because every time I do find something, I'm like, this is great, and I look it up and it's like, this is from 2009.
I've come across that because I listen to, or I used to do Pandora, but now I do YouTube Music, and every time there's a new song, I'm like, oh, this is a cool band. Of course, it's from 2001.
Yeah. Like I'm not finding a lot of good like metal, like the stuff that I've been finding recently, like a lot of called like vaporwave and like retrowave stuff, like Scandroid and that kind of stuff, and also a lot of like Soviet wave. So it's like kind of it's in that same world, like super chill kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've not found a whole lot of heavy stuff in a while, which is kind of a bummer. Like when I do, again, it's always old. Like I really like I recently got into Watain. Watain.
Yeah.
Watain, yeah, it's black metal. They've got a great one called They Rode On. You should totally check it out.
I'm gonna check that out.
But yes, but I mean I still think that's from like the 90s even. I mean it's an old black metal band from some time. Woods of Ypres was another one that I've recently discovered. They're this Canadian metal, and and again, like I find them and I'm like, this is fantastic, and then I find out that the lead singer is passed away, and they're never gonna make more music, and that's really the tragedy of the story, is that I don't get to listen to new music. That's not.
Well, I mean, if you're discovering new music, that like I got into Hank Williams, and I was like, how come I never heard this before? And then I started hearing the songs that's on films. I'm like, oh, okay. And then obviously he's not around, but it's the same thing. It's new. Right?
Yeah.
You discovered it. It's new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and let's see. I'm just going through like what have I been listening to? Yeah, it's actually just a lot of Woods of Ypres and like Dead Kennedys, Cradle of Filth. I guess I don't listen to that much different stuff.
Do you like Animals as Leaders?
I might. I'm gonna look them up.
Yeah. There's no vocals. It's three members, and the two guitarists. They play 8-string, and nice. I mean it's prog metal. It's just look up a song called CAFO and just CAFO by Animals as Leaders. You can even watch the music video and you'll just fucking sick. It's fucking sick.
Nice.
Yeah. What about Opeth?
They're okay. Every time I hear them and I don't know who it is, I like them. I think the only thing that I don't like about them is I think that they started on the Ozfest circuit as I was kind of getting out of the Ozfest circuit. So yeah. I in my head they're just kind of linked to like Hatebreed and like a bunch of bands that I mean not because they sound like them, but just because like who they were touring with kind of thing.
Yeah,
like that was my intro to them, and it's like, oh, I don't like those bands, and then I'll hear them, I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. What is this? Opeth, and it's always Opeth. So yeah, they're totally not that genre. But yeah. I see what you're saying, because I didn't like Killswitch Engage for a while because of that, and then I listened to, obviously, Fixation of the Darkness, but with the new singer, and I was like, damn, this is sick, and who's this? I'm like, oh, it's Killswitch? No way. And then I kind of got into the music, so I totally get that. I'm trying to I like the Murder Dolls. Those guys rock.
Oh, yeah. Joey,
so
Joey
that
Jordison's
dude,
drummer.
Yeah, dude, their lead singer actually is from the same tiny town as me. And I've been trying to find someone that knows him and like can connect us. And everybody that I've found is like, yeah, he's a little bit like a diva. And I have no idea if that's true or not. But I've been trying to find him, and
God, I haven't heard.
Nobody's willing to connect me. So that
I haven't heard Murder Dolls in so long. Wow, dude, it's awesome. All right, have you heard of Scum of the Earth?
I have not.
Okay, that's who's in it? That's some of the musicians from Rob Zombie. They did a side project. It sounds zombie-ish, but it's And then another one is Monster Magnet.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. We used to when I was in high school, we would listen to Space Lord, and we'd just ride around in the back of a truck and like play it on, play Space Lord on acoustic guitars, and usually they were electric guitars and just weren't plugged in, but
yeah, it's great. I love his lyrics.
Yeah, dude, they're really good.
I was talking to Jesus through a hole in the floor. I mean, come on.
and it's always like paced out well too. It's not one of those like there's some of those like I'm trying I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like they've got good lyrics, but they're just cramming so much in, it feels awkward. But it feels very like relaxed with him.
Yeah, and I dig it because it's very simple. It's not complex. It's not
Yeah.
flashy. It's simple rock.
So 2 questions. Okay, first of all, I've mentioned them a couple times. Have you ever seen any of Rammstein's videos?
A couple of them.
Yeah, you like the newer ones?
No. Just all old ones.
So they kind of do that Taylor Swift thing of like making short films instead of music videos, and you should check them out. Like the Deutschland video is it's phenomenal. Radio is more of a traditional one. Ausländer is it's good, but just be warned, Ausländer is not one to watch. It's so don't watch it at work. It is a yeah.
Wait, which one?
But Deutschland video is phenomenal. It's like the entire history of Germany like condensed down in this really like way that challenges a lot of the
Which one's the one you said not to watch at work?
Ausländer.
I'm gonna force everybody. You guys are gonna watch Ausländer. It's part, yeah. But, they're like, okay.
Hey, what you do in your own time, man. But yeah. So okay. So now I have the controversial question of the evening.
Oh yeah, go for it.
You brought up Metallica a few times.
Yes.
I don't know that this is a question. I don't know if it's a question. It's just my admission. I like Megadeth more.
Where's the end? But I'm kidding. I'll be honest with you. I'm the guy that likes Load and Reload. I like S&M. I like the old stuff. I do like Megadeth. I never got into that whole, they're better. I grew up with Metallica. I like Megadeth. I like his writing. I just can't get past the cheesiness of the singing. That's about it for me.
See, I kind of like that. And I think, so I got this back like with From Columbia House, I did the thing, you pay a penny and you get like, yeah. So I
got so much trouble doing that.
And I didn't have music taste at the time. Like I didn't know what I liked. This was, when I was just starting to get into stuff. So I got Nirvana's Nevermind, I got Pearl Jam's 10, and I got Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth. And I remember I got Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth because the cover just looked so badass.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I'd never heard anything by Megadeth. I just was like, this looks cool. I'm going to do it. And that's still like one of my, it's, let's say top 50. I mean, it's a great album, but it's not get carried away. But I loved it. And I too never got into the whole, like, they're better thing. I mean, I've actually never seen Megadeth. I have seen Metallica. So, but yeah, it just,
it's a sad story though. Like,
horrible.
Have you seen Some Kind of Monster?
Yeah.
Okay, when he's telling him, like, dude, like, people hate me and all this stuff, and, like, he's worth, like, for example, when I checked, I don't remember how long ago, he was worth, like, $40 million, and James Hetfield is worth $300 million. And, dude, you're a fucking millionaire, and I totally understand why you're depressed because of what happened, because the way shit went down. And it's fucking sad, Yeah, it really is. And yeah, he became successful, and there's that whole, rivalry and stuff like that. But I still think it's fucked up. But going back to I like some of the songs. It's just I just sometimes I can't. It's like Pantera. Like I like some Pantera songs, but when he started slamming more heroin and his voice just got deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
I wasn't too fond of Cowboys from Hell. I know I'm gonna get slaughtered saying that, but I like Far Beyond Driven. I like Great Southern Trendkill, and I liked when they were heavier. I guess when they did a transition, from the 80s metal. I know it's a terrible phrase, but you know what I mean. From that to
the speed metal to like what
it was cooler. It was more marketable in my ears from the stuff I liked. The other stuff is like, oh, this is cool, but Far Beyond Driven's fucking sick, same thing with Megadeth. I like some of the songs that probably, honestly, I think I like the newer stuff. Was it 90s, I think? Let me see. I think it was 90s. I'm really bad with dates. Or like dating everything.
Oh, just so much. I mean,
let me see.
I knew that like this week was the 25th anniversary of Zero, and I was still like 1993. What year? So
is it really? this week?
They released a whole new line of Zero shirts. It's 25 like this week.
I did not know. I wonder if my buddy knows that.
Yeah,
he probably does. He's a true story. He's a huge Pumpkin fan, obviously.
Yeah.
He's friends with Corgan's sound mixer.
Oh, wow.
The guy that remastered all his stuff. His name's Bjorn, and he one time went to go pick him up from the airport, Billy Corgan, and they ended up hanging out the whole day, and just like what happened with you. It's like, and he was like, "Is this happening? Am I really? This is happening? You know, imagine being a kid and your idol is like, you're driving your idol. He's right here texting. You're like driving, like, can I fuck you?" You know what I
mean? That's awesome, though. That is,
that's the same guy. The Zero shirt. He ended up like hanging out with him. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. It's like 2017, 2007. 1998 for Megadeth.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's all over the place. I guess it's not just newer stuff.
Yeah.
But
I was just a huge fan. Like, that album in specific, like Rust in Peace was pretty good as well. But
that's their for lack of a better term, Black Album, right?
Yeah, it was, and I think the reason that one's so like, the story is so just difficult is, A, it went down horribly, but B, like in any other situation, it would have had like the redemption, like he is successful by by all, like there's no metric that you can judge, that he wasn't successful unless that metric is Metallica.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of it sucks.
And that's the thing too, is that, he's like, he's butthurt about it. And honestly, I don't blame him. And even today, if he's like, it fucking hurts, of course, and it's not, I don't think he looks at it like my buddy was telling me. He's like, oh, he's looking at it because he's not as famous as him. No, dude, that's not how he sees it. He still sees it like, you guys were my friends, and you guys did me dirty,
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. And, I think I did read that like right after he announced, his like cancer diagnosis, that like Hetfield reached out and, they talked for the first time in, decades. And
yeah, but it sucks. It has to take that,
Exactly. And like, also, how's that conversation go? It's like, so you're doing this so you can say that you did, it's.
Yeah. Hey man, I heard you're dying. So, what's up? You want to be friends? It's like, how do you start that? It's like, I haven't talked to you in like 15 years, 20 years. So how's it going?
And when I've talked about you, it's never been good. So
yeah, it's awkward. It's like, I don't know. Hopefully, he gets not over it, but he finds peace with it.
For sure.
Dude, thanks so much, man. This was, I gotta have you back on the show. You're fucking, dude. You are so cool.
Happily.
You're the only other person that likes Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and like, it's about time I met someone that likes,
we should absolutely do the watch along to where we just record. We watch it, we record it. People can start at the same time as us.
I'm down. Fuck yeah. Dude, thanks a lot. For anybody that wants to see his website and work, it's going to be in the links below. You guys know how to do this already. So, DJ Summitt, thanks again. Oh, that's the other thing before we go. DJ, why DJ Summitt?
Yeah, so I was named after my dad. So it was Danny is my name, and I was Junior. And, when you're a kid, things seem like they're a lot more complicated than they were. So when people would say like, Danny, I would never know who they were talking to, even though they were clearly talking to him. It's like his business associates, but for when you're a kid, you're like, oh, that's confusing. And so I decided when I was 4 years old, that was kind of the height of when like DJ was a popular phrase. There was like, DJ, Jazzy Jeff, that kind of whole world.
Yeah.
So I shortened it in 4th grade and it stuck, and it'd be weird now to change it.
That is so fucking crazy. like my real name is Max, and
Mhm.
my dad is Max, and my grandfather was Max, and my great grandfather was Max. I have the fourth after me, literally, in my ID.
Wow.
And I mean, the way the line went, there's 5 of us. There's the original, and then the first, second, third, fourth. So I'm technically the fifth, but. I actually added an extra X because when we would get mail, my dad would open up my mail, and I'm like, "What the fuck, dude?" Because sometimes they can't fit the fourth, right?
Right.
So I ended up adding an extra X, and then like 6 months later, the Max came out, the comic book, and then the cartoon. You remember that guy with the claw?
I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, "Whoa, that's." Fuck it, and I kept it, and until this day, I legally sign documents with 2 X's sometimes. Like,
Yeah, I've got my legal. I mean, my legal name is still Danny, but I have a legal alias that like I could buy a house as DJ.
yeah, it's same here,
So,
same here.
Yeah.
That's
Are we the
fucking-
same person?
I don't know. Something's going on here.
Yeah.
What's ironic? It's like you have a blue light and I have a red light. It's like
Exactly. One of us is evil, I think.
it's definitely him.
I told him to say that.
Dude, yeah. Thanks again doing this. This is guys, check out his stuff. All his stuff will be down there. And hit him up. Talk about whatever you want. We'll see you guys next week.